I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, everybody. Thank you. Why not?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Thank you, honey. Have a good day, guys. You too, want to close the door?
Yeah,
Yeah?
close the door, yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna start a few minutes here. We have a personal, whatever.
All right, you're back.
Okay. Go ahead and go to the board of minutes.
No move to accept the minutes.
I second
November
it.
1st.
Any public comment on the board of minutes? Being none, excuse me, all in favor?
Aye.
No, correspondent.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
slacking.
Okay.
Okay, the first thing is in environmental equipment, somebody sending us stuff to trying to sell us equipment. And next one's from Great West, and it's a holiday open house. It's December 2nd, 4 to 8 at Helena. And it's appetizers and drinks and that, it's a dinner.
Does this have to be stamped
I
inside?
didn't know. You can give that to like all. I didn't stamp it in. I don't think we have to. Next one's a thank you letter from Dave Ullman. Is that what it is, really? So
I think so. He's the director for Big Sky Passenger Rail.
it's thank you for your participation in BSPRA and for your contribution for the operation and administration of the authority. With your help, we're making great. Good. I like that. Okay, and the next one is Flint Creek Dam Advisory Committee, November 1st meeting minutes.
And noted on this, when I went through this, that they have, George and Deborah McLean, who are ranchers. So this is a good thing, so the, water users are being represented. I also noticed that, I guess we can discuss this on, when we discuss the dam tenders report is that, where was it here? Somewhere where that Ben recommended 10 CFS be maintained via email on the first paragraph. I don't know if you guys got a chance to read.
My email still, the county email, when I went to Verizon, they can't figure out how I can't get it.
Really?
And I cannot get voicemails yet. So they said come back next week. I was in there for 2.5 hours
I believe it.
and
In Verizon?
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I spent 3 or 4 hours in there.
I never got them. You just see them. So anyway, I'll have to, yeah. The next one's from the Department of Transportation on the bridge stuff. We actually, this is that. Recommended work candidates, these are the bridges they recommended getting some work done if we apply for that other stuff. We get that yearly too, from them.
So those are our bridges.
What?
Looks like we better fix it. Got one.
Yeah, I don't, I think we've been kind of, waiting and waiting. We thought we were gonna get the right in that Stony Creek one, and then we did, so. The next thing is from Justice Court, Judge Brasky will be certification conference beginning November 14th to November 8th. The last is Grant County Justice Court. This I. Justice Court. This here that I laid in front of you, I didn't want to put it in the correspondence, to the fact I don't want to look at it before. We're gonna fix it litigation stuff. It's better that we talk to him first about that than, I don't want, because I don't know if that's something to do with litigation. So I think we just leave it till writing comes down and we look at it, see if it has to be in correspondence or not. I don't think it needs to be for litigation. Okay, other than that, that's all I have for correspondence. Any public comment on the correspondence?
Maybe you should start.
Okay, we'll go into public comment.
I felt like he was gonna come over.
I had a few calls on the roads, because people didn't realize that the county didn't work on Tuesday, the road crew didn't work on Tuesday. And they were upset that I guess one road got plowed, somebody went out and worked, why didn't the rest of them do it? And I said, I guess that's their call, now they call his call, or if he felt like there was a bad thing that they needed, so. I guess when Paul comes in, we can talk to him. That's a public comment, I got just the calls that.
And I did receive a phone call from Louis Polinsky, and he was concerned. About his road in Culvert, and so I referred him to Paul, and apparently when he called Paul and talked to Paul. And then he called me back and said that he and Paul have got it all figured out, and it's something that that the road crew will go up and look at in the spring, and it is a county road, so.
Okay, and then I see the Blackfoot thing dug a trench across the road in Maxville there. We gotta make sure they're gonna do that stuff, because that used to be asked pretty much at millings and that, now it's just dirt, so they're gonna blow out. If you remind me, I'll ask Paul about that.
Which road?
Right across the Maxville Road, just right past the bar there a little bit, they drug and put a trench in, but it's just all dirt now, it's already set up now, so if we go to plow. I don't know, when we dig it, it needs to have the millions or whatever put that down.
Good morning, I have public request. I'm here to request whether we could hire somebody with a bobcat or something to scrape along the side of the sidewalk out here, like where everybody parks, and to get that big pile of snow. And if we could do that, like whenever we have a heavy snow, so we can get that cleared out, maybe try to keep that ice dam from damming up like it has in the past.
The city's not getting it.
No, the city's not getting it.
We have before, Becky, we've had the county come up and use their loader.
The problem with that is that they don't get, they have to be here before the cars are parked here or after they leave at night.
Who was you thinking, do you know something?
I don't know, no, but
How about that Bob guy that does the airport, doesn't he have a little smoke on his pickup?
he's got a pickup.
That's what they
anything, I mean,
got.
anything at this point would be fine, as long as it was something big enough to be able to scrape down and then push all of that stuff clear over there, because a lot of times that gets packed down with the cars driving on it, and then, you know, you need something that's got the get up and go to push it.
Let's talk to Paul about it, maybe he has some
Maybe
ideas.
he has, you know, somebody that has this, I don't believe they have, you know, around here.
Right, yeah, well, and
Good
I
idea.
mean, I just wanted to talk to you guys first before I even started looking to see if there was somebody I could find to do it.
Remember last year, we tried to look into, find somebody too, because remember how bad it got, and then it
And
fucked up. and then-
What I'm hoping to avoid that this year if we get on it now, and you know, when we see that there's an issue, we can give that person a call and say, hey, can you come up and get us cleared out tonight?
Well, maybe, I don't
Should
care
be somebody around here.
if you got,
Yeah,
if you know somebody. Go ahead, I guess go ahead and look, and if any of us can think of somebody, we will too, but.
Okay.
No, cause I remember that lady fell down after last year too, and we're gonna be in trouble if we don't, and I know it's city's problem, but we never be.
We don't get the,
No.
you know, and not only that, but the fact that, you know, our workers are the ones who are parking in those places, and it just. I mean, sometimes we wear nice shoes to work, and sometimes we don't wanna step in that much snow. Okay,
I did go ahead and look, and then Paul there, mentioned it to him, he's right behind you now. You know, call somebody too.
you think there's knowledge in that great big giant head of his?
There's quite a bit of knowledge in it.
Okay, well, I'm chatting with them about hiring somebody with a Bobcat or something to keep this cleared out in the front and on the other side where we park, so that it doesn't dam up that ice like it has in the years past. And if we can keep on it now, it's not gonna be an issue come March.
Right.
So they're asking if you know anybody with a Bobcat in town here that would be willing to do something like that.
I don't know, but I'll try and find somebody.
Okay, I'm not, does Chet Pettick have one? He owns the grocery store.
Oh. What about? I guess, yeah, we'll just,
I just need something, you know, we need something small, compact with a lot of power that can,
what's gonna have to have more weight to it.
Great for
so
that.
we can Get it shoved, I don't know, we'll have to work to see where to shove it. Try to keep-
Morning.
Down where to push it.
Morning.
Honestly, because I know it's down and up.
Computer problems?
Yeah.
Or-
When-
Uh-oh.
so do you want me to get quotes or are you just green lighting me? Do you want me to get quotes or are you just giving me the green light?
I guess green light it so we can get it done, because otherwise they'll have, you know, we need to find somebody that would be calling. And then
Okay.
snow down, if they could come and do it.
Perfect,
And,
sounds great.
We need to let the city know, though.
Okay.
So, I mean, we gotta touch bases with them, because it's their road,
Yeah,
but Sam know that we're just trying to find somebody.
okay, sounds good. Will do. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, gonna go ahead and go into any other public comments, sorry. Being none, you move on to the bid opening.
You have two.
For what? Right. What's going on, Brian?
I can't get,
Her computer, the internet is being weird. Let's try this.
there's, I was on and then I
Reboot it.
lost. There's power down.
Reboot, F and R LLC unit pit. Who?
Tommy Mazza.
Okay, the first one from F and R LLC. Tom Mazza, crushing of 10,000 yards of 3/4 minus road gravel. Is 110, it's $11 a yard at $110,000. Crushing of 15,000 yards of 3/4 minus road gravel is $10.50 at $161,250.
Range you're thinking of, or is that the range you're thinking of? You never know.
Yeah,
And the next one from, Mobile Rock Crushing out of Corvallis.
better weld it together anyway.
Okay, the first one's, for 10,000, the 3/4 minus is, yeah. 1150 comes to 115,000. And the second one, onsite crushing for 15,000 yards or 3/4 minus is at 1065 comes to 159,750. That's all that increase includes, look at their stuff.
Those fair prices.
He's got the other stuff.
If I'd like to make a motion then and just go with Tommy Mazza at 15,000. Or,
I'll second.
If you wanna look at this first. If you wanna look at this stuff first.
I listen to what
Dave.
He's got some stuff. So like it look at it.
I shouldn't make a motion.
Well, I didn't know how to read what he says on there. I didn't read the whole thing.
Let me see Tommy's. Oh, I thought you had it sitting right there.
I had Angelo stuff.
Oh, that's for you to look at. I didn't put this in like. You put that in public correspondence. I just let them read it. Yeah.
I didn't put that in correspondence, but I didn't know that's part of that litigation stuff.
So he got his,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom.
he's got his as. The county pays for the mobilization in and out. So,
Where the other guys include his with it.
right, but. Then he's got scalping and piling. I mean. Johnny's cheaper, that's just the way it is.
And so then the county would be paying how much?
We'd have to pay whatever it costs to lowboy from his pit. Hell, it's just over the hill, it can't be that much,
Okay,
just depends on it. I mean, it's gonna be a few $1,000s for sure, but
but probably not anything that's going to make this guy cheaper.
and I think. When we're down there. If we do go ahead and do it, we wanna survey the piles.
Like we did before out in Rock Creek, so we make sure we get what.
Hmm.
Hams did that last time, and then we had some special guy come in too, but I mean, every people we get, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, they wanna buck the counter, do whatever, but. You wanna be able to survey it and then they, 1,000 yards is 1,000 yards, but when you're talking that big a quantity.
No, we better. What happened last time.
Yeah,
And I agree with you, to go local is what we,
Yeah, so I'll restate my motion. For Tommy Mazza at 15,000 yards. Or, yeah.
I'll second.
Any public comment on this? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. In the order of comment, so, anything not all.
So he can get started right away.
Well, I don't know, I'll call
Be nice.
Has that pit been proven that it's all there? I mean,
him, yeah. For how much is there? Yeah,
He is worried about, this is what he said, that he is worried about digging down and might not have enough there.
well, according to the record, it's supposed to be there, and. You know. You just gotta dig it, start mining, that's all you can
I
do.
guess you get what you can get, I mean, that's just.
Well, they could. We could make it bigger if we want, if we needed to, you know.
should we inform the neighbors out there that
Yeah. I'll get hold of them,
And
I'll get hold of Tommy and see what his start plan is. And I've already visited with him some, even if he can get some there, you know, he's not gonna get it all before he throws out,
you know, if he could get started, it's good,
yeah.
and then I guess we'll send a letter out. I mean, you can call and talk to him about it, we'll get him a letter.
But we're only gonna pay mobilization one time. One in, one out, not,
oh, yeah.
I mean, he gets started and then he gets frozen out, we're not gonna move it back and then move it back out.
Matter if we have some going and move down.
Yeah.
We're not getting into that. So,
But he wouldn't expect us to.
Did you get one?
so all in favor?
Oh, I did.
Aye. Well done. Righty. We'll go ahead and go into the weekly report with Road and Bridge Superintendent.
Everything's going good, we're just throwing a little sand up right now and servicing equipment. By the end of the week, start putting wings on at least one blade. And just all the roads are pretty clean and. Oh. But
All the sand is ready to go. I see it's spreading something.
yeah, all sand's mixed and ready and
It's pretty hot, ain't it? Some of that. Is that just because it's on the end of the mile there?
yeah, just. It's all mixed with the loader, so you're gonna wind up with. That's just the way it is, you know,
You got them other roads plowed.
there's not one road we counted, it's not plowed.
So,
That's what I was talking about. They called in, so.
we didn't get granite at all, so we're gonna put it on the plan for next spring.
Yeah,
or with-
then we start getting drawn off, we'll go up there and do something,
I think that'd be the time to do it anyway.
me too.
You do what?
Granite.
Get granite.
Oh,
We didn't get it.
it's too late now to.
Too late.
Yeah, do it in the spring when the water's on, then you can. That's all we did do, then, old Plansky talked to you,
Yes,
so I talked to him about that road up there, and the bottom line is. You know, the Forest Service went and fixed that culvert and did what they could do with the rubber tire backhoe. Obviously, he wants gravel on it, and all that, well, that's just a non-maintained road. And I just told him, let's look at it in the spring, but that money's gotta come from somewhere. It just can't just come out of the road fund that doesn't have any money in it. And, you know, I think if you're gonna haul 15 loads of gravel somewhere, that's money.
Which road?
Little Gold. Up above Maxville. He's got a cabin and stuff up there and. We'll do, we need to do something with it, but
How far is it? Where you cross the creek there? Is that
Yeah.
cabin?
no, he's up there even higher yet, you know where you turn to go to cow camp,
Can't
like
remember.
Thompson Lake.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Anyways, it's probably 5-6 miles above
Really?
Maxville, yeah.
he made the comment, I imagine he made it to you too, that he pays $34 and some odd cents for maintenance for the road, and I said, that isn't exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
You live outside the city limits, so you pay the county roads.
Yeah, it goes for all the
Yeah,
county
for all
roads
county
use and, yeah.
So he understood that, but he felt that, he called me back and said that he'd talked to you and he felt very good about his discussion with you, so.
Oh,
Well, we're back to same old issue of unmaintained county roads, I mean, we're gonna.
Yeah,
Probably gotta start doing something, but. A lot more people up here.
yeah.
One question is that he said something that there's an agreement with the Forest Service because he's discussed it with the Forest Service, is that?
It's just on our schedule, you know, they do some stuff, we do some stuff, that's why they went and fixed the culvert, you know.
so it's on the master list, but there's no agreement to actually, Do
It's
that
just if
road,
they get
yeah.
where they get,
yeah.
yeah.
Would this be something where he would come in and fill out a form and ask if he can put gravel on it at his own expense or what?
He's never gonna do anything at his own expense.
Like, I know that.
Yeah, that's the expenses.
Have those forms, okay.
I talked to him as well and said, still in the same thing, and that it's the commission's discretion, it's a county road, but it's commission's discretion on what county roads get maintenance or not, so it's. He still needs to pay his taxes
Yeah.
because, yeah, it's not for the. Not for the road that he's on, it's for all, yeah, for maintenance of county roads in general.
So he also mentioned the solid waste where he has so many units that he has to pay, and so I explained to him. If they're on one property, if there isn't a building and if no one's residing in it, then
And that issue was fixed, I
Okay.
think, yeah, he told me it was fixed, that they had
Okay.
taken, when the unapproved property that was.
Yeah.
Taken off that. And that, and I told him that's different yet, because you're, you. Using that solid waste, you
Yeah.
pay to use, but the road one is for all, yeah,
you know,
goes
he's
for all
yet to
maintenance
go
of all
to
the.
Okay, did that lady, did you get that call?
Oh, I
She
sent
did.
that information to
Did
both of
you know
you,
who
that
that
one
is or
woman.
What was it?
The one I texted you, she didn't want, I can't remember her name now. She didn't want to leave her contact information. She lives off Granite.
You get that?
Hold on. Oh, I can't find
I
it.
just had her forward too, but she won't live.
She doesn't wanna leave her.
I'm not gonna find, tell me who she is.
Yeah, it was kind of a bizarre interaction. She had just paid her taxes and she wants Granite Road maintained, and I had explained that you guys, that it's a non-maintained road. Same thing, and that you guys have plans to do that at some point, to do some maintenance on it, but that it is a non-maintained road, and then she just kind of had discussed her
I just
taxes,
told
and
Billy to pass it.
I had asked for her contact information and she didn't want to give it because she just wants someone to go up there and do it
And where's this at?
on Granite Road.
Oh. Is that the same that we've already discussed?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, they don't wanna leave their contact, and but yet they want him to drive up to one and know who she is or where she is, so I mean.
Yeah.
Drive around circling up there. Anyway, I just want to make sure you got that.
This is something where has not she notified the other residents that have come forward and asked us to do something and we agreed to?
Right.
And when we could get to it, and so we can't get to it this fall, we'll get to it in the spring.
right, but you need to leave your name,
Yeah,
you know, I mean, how can you just not leave your name and then just go pick a house or what?
And I invited her to come in. I invited her to contact. I
Really though.
think she just mostly wanted to vent after paying the taxes.
so this
But
was
I'm
a
here
phone
for it.
call that you,
Oh, no, she came in.
oh, she came in.
Yeah.
Oh,
After
okay,
she paid her taxes.
okay,
and-
after she paid, I understand,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
I'm
that's.
going, how can you email somebody and not leave you? Anyway.
So, other than that, do you have anything for solid waste?
Everything's good in Hebron, we had a little issue with the backup on our computer stuff, or pack was burned up again, but anyway, someone got a different one of them, got that changed, and in Drummond, we're having hydraulic pump trouble right now with the compactor. So we're working on that. Right now, they are down there. I think the coupler's out. Either the coupler's out or the pump's locked up, one of the two. But. We'll. Whatever that, we'll get that fixed. We're working on that now. Just. Other than that. Not much.
I don't. You, Lance, anything?
I mean, no,
Any public comment for Paul?
Did the signs come in on the?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Did the department for the backhoe?
No,
Still.
supposed to be here this week though.
so the signs are ordered, right?
Yeah, and the backhoe stuff it was supposed to ship, so it should be here sometime this week.
Don't forget to figure out what we need to the solid waste one. I just don't want to forget
About what?
going to Deer Lodge.
Oh,
With solid
If
waste.
we can just
If
get
we
some
can do it.
figures that we said.
okay,
estimate.
so I have a comment on that. I'm thinking that maybe we need to discuss it and maybe look at. First of all, we wanna, do the commissioners do they know that we're interested in hauling? If we can save some money to Deer Lodge.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we need to start with the commissioners. And then another thing I was looking at. We still have, well, Phillipsburg owns it, but there's still all that. Dump property where the landfill was. Is there any way possibly that we can reapply for the landfill?
I don't know how that come out with DEQ and everything.
Well, I know DEQ, but there isn't, I looked it up, there is an application, I mean, our dump was a clean little dump. And it was actually, the town of Phillipsburg gave it up. And then we took it on as a district, they gave it up because they were afraid that it was gonna cost them so much more money to maintain it. But it would have been, exempted because it was a little dump. And they didn't wait to see exactly why not. So I was kind of looking at, and I'm thinking that maybe with, like you said, some of this money, if we cannot, because you're so, busy, that get an actuary or something come in and say, okay, this is exactly what it's gonna cost, and use some of that money for that to see, and then we'd know for sure. But I think we first need to get something from the commissioners in Deer Lodge County or Powell County, right?
I
Yeah,
was gonna send something over that one time, and then we all kind of backed out of it, so I think all we have to do is kind of get. I can't think of it.
So you wanna send a letter to them and see if
yeah,
I go for that?
don't you think?
Williams. Yeah,
To get with them and speak with them to see if they would even let us.
so I think they have a separate board over it, but yeah, ultimately probably the.
But
commission would
ultimately, it'd be
commission,
the commission of Powell County, correct?
I believe so,
Yeah, and they have their own board as well,
yeah.
that takes care of the. Garbage part of it.
I could review the regs on that. I guess I always assumed that it was too close to town, but there might be some
Yeah, I
variances.
think
Oh, for the landfill?
Yeah, but there might be some variances that.
Well, and you look at it, you look on the cadastrum. And the town of Phillipsburg has it, and I pulled up, and it's this huge area. That
Yeah.
is the landfill.
Hmm.
And if you have to, and I kind of was looking with the DEQ, and you have to fill out an application for it, and you have to give them. Okay, how much is gonna be going in there, blah, 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 and to see, I guess we can talk with Chad, just look at our options, and if it's not an option, then, but if it's something that,
Start reaching
We
out.
can-
Well, I
have
say
that.
we can look at it, but
yeah,
I have my doubts about it.
Yeah. I know, but that's what I'm asking is if we can use some of that money, which would be a good use to find out just exactly if we're gonna save any money, and because you're saying with with, the. The prices raising, well, everything's because of inflation, so you have to look at. The inflation factor of this too is one of the reasons that it's increasing in price.
Money, you're talking about the LATCF
Yes,
or those,
yeah,
yeah. the-
yeah.
Well, why don't we send a letter to you, let's
Yeah.
do it, see, if-
Yeah.
I mean, that's, then we can,
Right, no, I think if we're gonna do this, let's start from the top and then,
I think that's what you said.
Sounds good.
Does that-
Sounds good.
No, it makes sense to me, at least that way if they say no,
then we know.
right,
Then we can look at maybe other options and knowing that. This would be a major time frame for you to go in there, investigate and do all this stuff when you have all this other. I'm not saying that you can't do it, I'm just saying that. If we have this extra money, let's get a professional that can crunch the numbers. And give us an actual,
Yeah,
Amount.
let's do the letter first.
okay,
and then-
And see.
Okay. and get things started instead of just, okay.
Is that a motion? We need a motion.
If you just directed Paul to do it or work on
Man,
it.
you can blanket.
yeah, see, there's one, maybe want also a commitment. They say, yeah, we can dump in there, that's one thing, but it needs to say we can dump in there for 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
Yeah, we can't.
Yeah.
yes, yeah,
If
Yeah.
We stop whatever, it's.
I'll-
start there, and if there's any interest, they would get a hold of their boards and say, hey. We can make some money here and if it's gonna save us money. Okay, that's just what, I kind of look and listen and,
Sounds good. Anything else? Any public comment? Okay, you got anything?
No, I just need one quick minute if I could.
Yeah,
You guys good?
All right, we're Brandon Parrott Dam Tenders Report, Lakes at 64, 27.82, 20.16. It came up there.
What was the last week?
Uh, 21.24. Now we're at 20.16. 64, 27, 73, and we're at 64, 27, 182. So a couple of games.
It's almost an inch.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion to stay at 10 for another week.
okay, I have a comment on that, and I'm thinking that. It's coming up. And we're at 10. And if we can stay at 10, that's going to give the electricity during cold times where the price of electricity probably goes up a little bit,
Yeah,
where we can maybe make a little bit more money to put into the coffers. If it came up,
and to me, it's not just about money. That's a good point, but it's not just about the money. We're coming up anyway,
yeah,
so,
So it might well be better in it both ways.
yeah, and we're still ahead of what we were last year.
and then the information that we received from,
It's in that packet. I put it in there, so I put it in the book.
so is he the one that said could possibly keep it at 10?
Light,
Like, I think it is.
where,
Well, that was in the meeting with,
Oh, and-
Meeting, they want to go down.
the advisory board.
They want to go down.
They want to go down to 6.
so do I have a second?
Yeah,
If you put it
yes,
in
I second it.
there. Any public comment on this? Seems none, all in favor? Aye, it's staying at 10. Fish and game, any comment?
They're not on.
They're not on?
No.
Only ask for a minute at a time. It's they're staying at 10 and they were worried about, saying no, that. That's all I ask. where they said they had another people involved, and, you know, two guys out of Helena, and met Brad and Pat, and four of them, not one of them give us a minute of the time. Anyway, we'll move on. Did you have something late?
At 10 o'clock, I think you're on.
The FTK subdivision.
Oh,
I think it's a subdivision.
okay, we'll go into the joint funding agreement 23 RSF, RSJF A006 with USDS. This is on the measuring.
Yep.
That we do every year.
Yep. It came too late. She forgot to send it to us in August.
So. Did you, everybody get a packet, or everybody get one?
Everyone got a packet, but there says copy, so that's the one that will get a
So I
signature.
entertain a motion on this.
Okay, so the fee is what? It hasn't gone up or anything, it's the same
I
fee.
believe USDS pays 2,700 and we pay 3,900 on the water resources program.
And refresh my memory, what's this for?
Our gauges
Yeah.
Oh, to measure
and the announce.
water coming in and, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's required. Doesn't do in, just, yeah, out
Well, I'll move
and the
to
elevation.
approve the agreement. Whatever,
I'll
with
second it,
USGS.
I'll second it.
Any public comment on that? Means none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Make every back. Okay, on the map, page, that's it. Good stuff. Okay, got a few minutes before the next. Get caught up.
When it's cold like this, do you not lose precipitation on the lake?
No, and then plus ice is covered, starting to cover, so we don't lose it with the wind blowing. In the summer, I wish I could find that, I'll have to see maybe Todd can dig it up, but Mike KO had it, how you can break it down on exactly how much we lose. Pretty amazing.
So and it does kind of have a skim of ice over the top of it.
Someone said someone was walking out a dip there, maybe they shouldn't be. Walking out on.
It's there.
And all the ducks have left,
Yeah,
except for the frozen ones, no.
you're right.
All the coots get attacked and
It's not nice. Yeah. Kind of an interesting way to see where the springs are in the lake, because those are the last spots that freeze. And that's where the coots are.
on the Rising Sun case, they took Fred's deposition and Linda's deposition.
What?
The attorney took their depositions on the Rising Sun, the fire suppression bond case. That's coming up for bench trial on December 12th. It's coming right up.
You guys were busy last week
Yeah.
upstairs.
Depositions with the Becky case and this one. But, yeah. Red's the star witness.
Oh, one of two, I had, and then some.
I just got a text, Discovery opens on Friday.
Oh, it does. Wow,
I know,
earliest in a
early.
long time, huh? You got a season pass?
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Didn't get much use out of my season pass last year.
so, yeah, slow coming on it.
All right, a couple minutes early, we can go ahead into this junk residential trailer and Drummond discussion and decision. Uh, What are you thinking? I'm not very, I tell you, this is gonna be a bad deal, Lawrence. and
What do you mean, bad deal?
I just think we're
Removing
opening,
it?
I mean, I know it needs to be removed, but. I'm afraid we're opening up I know this could be a one-time deal. But who's the next one coming in and saying, well, how can you say? One, I'm gonna remove it this time, and next, I just don't like this. It seems like we're getting kind of through into the thing where it's sitting in city limits. That's not our.
So then what happens if we don't do anything about it?
I think it's up to Chad and then to step to the plate, because it's a sanitarian issue, but he's bringing the county, he's saying, oh, well, the county's got this and that, they can do it.
Well, Chad's a, yeah, contract employee, basically, contracted, but I shouldn't say employee, contracted with the county. I guess I don't see any remedies there.
What are we gonna do with it, though? I mean, he's said he's gonna come and take it, and then he has,
Well, it'd be the contractor would just dismantle it and take it out for a fee.
and we're gonna.
I know you disagree, you think that. It's gonna set precedents and maybe it is, but also we need to set a precedence that. You can't just leave junk vehicles on your property that are a nuisance and also a health hazard. And the sanitarian is recommending that it be removed due to health issues. I think it's the county's responsibility to do that, and I know it's happened years and years ago. There was a big mess down where the county had to remove all this stuff. And it ended up, and this has been way years ago that I can't even remember the names, but. We can put it on the property taxes to get that money back. And it's something if the county has to go out and has to do this because it's recommended by the sanitarian for health issues, we have to do it. I mean, he's a contract, but we still have to go on his recommendation.
The only other remedy would be if no one does anything is litigation, but this is easier than that cuts out the.
I understand now, but I mean, he recommended that to the city too. And now they say no, so now it comes back to us. See, what I'm saying is it's just shoving it down the line and now we're stuck. We're the last resort.
You're saying the city, it should be the town of Drummond's
Yeah.
issue.
Cause I mean, he mentioned it to them and they say no, but so now it's coming to us.
Mayor Leeper has a
I
comment.
guess we're gonna end up probably having to doing it. I just don't wanna open up a big door and then all of a sudden, cause remember, we had the trailers down here on the other end of town. When I first got in there, but that was a problem. Yeah, we got it. So that's all I'm just saying. I know we're gonna have to do it. I just don't wanna be
No, I agree.
opening up the door that every time somebody's, one can't do it, the other's gonna have to do it. That's my opinion.
Comment
Oh,
from Mayor.
public comment?
Well, I don't know if you're not gonna make a motion.
Well, I
Just
think
gonna
it's
leave it
just
sit
gonna
there or
be-
what?
I think it's just gonna be a discussion and we're gonna make a decision.
Okay.
We do it. I think that we're gonna have to
It says discussion and decision.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna do it, but that was my opinion, that's all I wanted to
So
know.
we do it.
So what do you think? You think
Let the
the,
city do it.
let the city do it?
I think she's trying to talk.
Yeah, Mayor Lieber is on and has a comment.
Okay, go ahead, Mayor.
Good morning, commissioners. Number one, the landowner talked to me personally, but has never formally got put on the agenda and come and talked with us about it. There was a trailer that was drug in on the landowner's property many years ago, which wasn't even right. And we worked to get that one off. And so that's why the landowner came and talked with me about it. But I don't feel like this is the town's obligation. If the county sanitarian has recommended to you to do that, then I would hope that the county would take that into consideration and not have any animosity of, well, that's the city's problem. We're supposed to be working together with it, and where the landowner had been receiving rent for however many years and stuff, that should have been put on that should have been a consideration. So I'm just hoping that the commission will also take that into consideration and go through the taxes.
Did Chad talk to you then, or no?
No, the only person that has talked with me about this is the landowner, and that was probably 6 months.
You gone?
To talk.
Okay, so here's a question to Blaine. Okay, you're thinking that it's up to the city to take care of this. Can the city come back and put it on the tax roll on the taxes as payment due to this landowner because they had to remove this hazard from their property?
I guess I'd have to research that. I think both have joint jurisdiction. I don't know that the town has, I don't want to speak for the mayor. I don't know if they have the money to do it, whereas you guys have the funds. And I'm not pushing you one way or another. I'm just saying that if you guys have the funds in that junk fund, and then we'll put it on the tax to get reimbursed. And I do think this has to be looked at as on a case-by-case basis, because I believe this person is now the person that owned the trailer is not. I don't want to get into his financial situation, but he's not in a position to do it.
What if, why can't we table this and have the owner come in so we can talk to him face to face instead of jumping around going, we're here, and Chad never even talked to the mayor, and I thought he said he had. So see, I'm thinking that's why Gail, I said, it seems like it's just getting shoved down the line, because I thought he said he talked to you.
Nobody has chatted with me about it. And just so FYI, if anything is put on the taxes, the city is requesting that, we have to go through the commission to do it anyway. So why wouldn't the commission just do it? That is a law. I've already had it checked into when we did the previous trailer. And this one is because there's hazard waste within that trailer. And I mean, this is a much bigger deal than the previous trailer that we worked on to get off our easement, right away of our road.
Yeah, this is way good. Yeah. I guess before we made a decision, I think I need to talk to the owner and just, you know, cause none of us have really talked to him.
So you got the owner of the, actual owner of the trailer, but then you have the owner of the land, you're talking about the,
Bob. I guess.
yeah, the owner of
Say
the
his name,
land,
Bob,
yeah.
talk to Bob and see what's really going on. Is he getting stuff on that trailer yet, or is it?
Well, he received, yeah, rent payments there. But when it goes on the taxes, it's gonna go on
The
the
real estate.
real estate taxes, so that, I'm not sure if it's in I don't think it's in his name, but it would go on the real estate taxes.
What do you guys say? Should we talk to him and see?
Well, I,
Ask him some questions, what? Cause I understood that he talked to Gail, so I'm wrong.
so are you saying that Chad, did Chad visit with the landowner? Or did he just go inspect the trailer and say it was a hazard and it needed to be removed?
I'm not sure if he did. Bob has talked to me about it, basically saying he doesn't have the resources to take care of it, is basically what it came down to.
Okay, so here's a question too. I guess we could talk to the property owner and say, hey, this is a hazard that has to be removed. If you can't do it, we're going to do it and put it on your taxes. Or is it gonna
yeah.
sit there and because like, like you're
Yeah.
saying with. You think the city is responsible, but, and then Blaine has a good point, the city doesn't have the finances, we do, we have grant money to do it. And then we can also turn it around and say, hey, because the county had to remove this. Because we were recommended this be removed by the sanitarian, because it is a health issue. That it would go on there.
There could be a time deadline for them to remove it. If they don't, then
Yeah, I think we have to go through the order, no matter what.
Well, none of us have talked to him, I mean,
Yeah.
so I think a person should put him on the agenda. Talk to him and have him, you know, there's questions asked him, and then make a decision there.
And have Pat here too.
I just soon do that, so then we're all on square one. Chad needs to be here too. If Chad's been there and looked, I don't know if he's talked about it again, or not, I can't speak to him, so. I just soon table this for another week, next week, put it on the agenda. Well, and Chad Lannis and have them come in so we can talk this over.
I agree.
All righty. Thanks, Pat.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
All righty, so, we're gonna go into right at 10 o'clock, primarily plat approval for the FTK subdivision, discussion and decision. And
I didn't hear the bell ring.
everybody signed in?
There's nothing, no documentation.
I don't mind. All right, so we're into this, go ahead, Linda.
Okay, so this is a 2-lot minor subdivision. It's up at the lake. It's a resplit of the Lookout Addition Lot 2. So, the Lookout Addition lot is up on the hill, right? I think most of you know where that old lookout for the Forest Service used to be. This is right next to it, except for it's down below it on the hillside. So, you'll see all of when this went to the planning board, they did recommend approval of this, with the conditions and the variance. It was a split vote, 4 of them voted for, 2 voted against. And essentially, I'm gonna skip over most of the document. There isn't really much debate on the majority of this subdivision. The 2 split, it's not gonna create much impact as far as most of it goes. The big issue here is with the fire. Because the road is steep, it's very steep, the driveway coming off, so. What I don't know the background of the original Lookout Edition, but for whatever reason, they had. So when they were doing the two subdivisions, they did Lookout and another one right next to it. They did the other one first, and they had left this little easement to go across the Lookout down to this lower lot, which would have gone across the terrain better and created a less steep road. But for whatever reason, when Lookout actually got approved, they ditched that plan and they allowed them to put this flag lot in, which brings this little narrow piece up to the road. So when you look at the actual map, you'll see that it's funny shaped. It has like majority of it below and then this little piece coming up to the road so that they can get a driveway down there. Well, of course, that limited piece is going to limit how they can get a driveway in there. They can't switch back it, they just have to sort of take it straight down the hill. It is very steep, there's no doubts about that. They cannot, when the fire department came in several years ago and put their requirements into the subdivision regs for Georgetown Lake, one of their requirements was that driveways meet a 10% grade. So the county doesn't have a driveway standard. And since both of these lots come up and touch the county road there, we aren't looking at any of this for compliance with the county road standards. It's looking at it solely for compliance with the fire standards for this driveway. And their standards say that you can't have a driveway over 10% grade without a variance. They cannot get this driveway under 10%. I mean, it's just physically not possible to do, given the topography and the side of lot that they got to work with. The fire department obviously has a very big concern with that. They would prefer the variance not be granted, which would allow this subdivision not to go forward.
Chuck, go ahead. You've got a question.
Yeah, I looked at it, Heidi took me up there and I saw it, let's go, and it's,
It is,
you know, and I have a lot of experience with. Road locations, I've already located 100 miles. And. You know, when they're talking 50%, the first goal she was talking about. I've had short grades 15% before, but I looked at this and it's gotta be over 15%. I didn't have anything to measure it with when you first dive off the county road. And being that it's like a west slope, I mean, it's not gonna melt out in the winter time. That thing is. Could be treacherous. I mean. I don't like it, but if it is a private driveway, I don't wanna tell people what to do with their own plan. So it's really I don't know what to do. I mean,
Right.
I don't like the road.
Does it come down to the safety of the fire department then? What's
Yeah.
what happens?
If it was a winter time, I would not take a fire truck down there. I would
Yeah.
do it.
so we've tried to put some mitigations in place to try to mitigate this road. And so those mitigations right now sit at, there's a covenant that we're requiring stating that in weather events, we just won't go down it at all. Period. We're not gonna require anybody to go down it, during weather events. They actually are gonna put their cistern up on the top of the hill and put a dry line down. And have a hydrant down there so that the fire department doesn't have to take a water tender down the truck or down that road. They can go down, and then they've required earthen berms to be put up on sections of the road so that if somebody did get going out of control, they're not gonna go
What if, so,
scalco.
okay, this is just thinking down, what if a fire starts down in there? And they can't get to it, and it goes together, who's gonna be for fault? Being that these guys can't get to it, does that throw it back in our lap then? Cause we're giving we're saying, yeah. You see what I'm saying?
I can't hear you.
Okay, so if a fire starts down in here, and we're, saying, they're saying that they don't wanna go down in there, so then it starts spreading off to everything else, then who's fault it? I mean, are we saying that it's a, you see where I'm going?
Well, if it was a forest fire, I'd probably take a truck down. in the summer, I'd probably go down there. It was me. Well, I know it's been done, if it was a house fire or whatever.
I guess I
Well-
just wanna make sure that we're all,
So initially, the fire department is against the variance also,
They are against the
against it
variance.
completely.
Yeah, they would prefer the.
There's no
variance
other way you
not
can,
to be done.
you can do the road.
There's no other way to do the road.
I know.
No, there is no other way to do the road.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the lot is part of an existing subdivision. It is buildable the way it is now. So right now, one of the developers, there's two guys that own the property. One of them could go build a house on it right now, and there's nothing the county can say on that. It's really whether or not you're going to allow the split. And this is a one-time split. They can't split any further than this. This is a one and done, but
How large is the cistern that's contemplated?
uh,
10,000.
10,000.
10,000.
the owners.
yeah, they're both here.
Okay, I have.
Were they saying something to the fire department of where the footprint for the house was gonna be, that they didn't think that was a good idea?
That's, yeah,
Could that be changed or cannot?
if, Chuck's been there, there's a little bit of a draw. I don't wanna call it a gully, that might be assumed to be steeper. We see that as a chimney, especially if there's a prevailing wind out of the west. Fuels are heavy to the lower end of it. So we were suggesting that they move that building site out of that zone. And there's been a little pushback on that. They like the site that they've chosen. So I guess certainly that's an issue.
Okay, so even to work with the fire department, couldn't they?
Well, I think they're right there.
Yeah, could I?
They're the owners, I just found out. I didn't.
I mean, this is big, when you have something in a variance that you can't get a truck down there and put out a fire, and then you have to notify, okay. Chain of title, how does that get down chain of title? Does it have to be on a deed saying, hey,
Yeah, it'd have to be a stipulation
Yeah.
on the plat is what you're
It's on the
talking about.
It's in the covenants for the subdivision, yeah. So
That's-
when you do run a title, it's gonna show up that. They're gonna be, and the other mitigation that they're requiring on this one is, that they are not going to be able to do short-term rentals. So the lake does allow short-term rentals, but no short-term rentals. So if you want to long-term rental it out month by month to somebody, that's fine, but no VRBOs or Airbnbs where you're gonna potentially have, somebody from California
traffic.
coming up and at 2 a.m. trying to find the place and go, down the hill,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Greg. Just a second, I'll get to you.
Well, yeah, well, thanks. I think the root of this discussion also should be, we have standards. And yes, this is early on in our standards. They were established in 17. You folks adopted them, or your peers did. And we hate to start with variances right off the bat. And, we all could relate to road situations at the lake that were granted years ago. That your county road department says we can't even get up. Are we creating a similar situation? Granted, it's not a county road, but it is setting up the fire department for future issues. The
Okay.
next lot down the road.
That's a question too. For example, you can't get down that road. And there's a fire, then what happens? Do the homeowners sue the fire department if they couldn't get down the road? I mean, this.
I guess that's where I was going,
And-
who's liable after?
And I mean, really, the press would be our villain. They would feast on this. Why did this equipment sit on the shoulder of the road? And we'd probably have a PR person there saying, here's a copy of the covenant or the stipulation. And they'd say, but fire is your business. It's just an awkward setting that we're gonna be set into. We would try to respond. But what what fires are put out with is water, and that's a big part of the issue too.
You've got a, he's got a,
Okay.
you have a comment? Would you come up and state your name, because I didn't know you were the owner.
Yeah. I'm Caleb Johnson, Russ Martello and I. So I just wanted to add, just to back up a little bit to, the conversation about a fire in there. We've taken, this last summer and logged that. It was a big expenditure to log our entire lot. It also sits above Clarkson's Ranch, which has also been logged. So in terms of touching quickly on a forest fire, I think we've met all the mitigation and then some there, knowing that this is a unique lot and a unique situation. So we've taken a lot of steps to mitigate on our end any type of anything we can do for a summer fire. When we get to the winter time, as owners, that's our responsibility. We're very well aware that if my cabin, if this was to work, or Russ's cabin was to start on fire, we're very well aware, and that's our responsibility to take. That we know the fire department's not going to be able to get in there. And I think we can touch on there's more information on that as we go through this with the cisterns. That I don't think it's not gonna be a feasible thing in the winter to put a fire out, a house fire out. I think in the summer, when we had 80,000-pound log trucks coming in and out of there about. And that was through the spring and once it dried out to the tune of about, I wanna say 16 to 18 loads of logs. So you can pull weight in and out of there. The road base is good. I just wanted to add that to that last comment that.
The only comment on mine on that is the log trucks are set up forward, you can have the fire trucks, they're not lower and water and heaters, Like nothing I go, we go to the woods all the time, the trucks will do that, but I'm just saying, fire trucks are completely different than the trucks.
And I think we'll get into that conversation here in a little bit with some of the things the fire department has added. In their letters, that they won't go down there. That's.
So one question too, you've got to look at, if you don't have a fire protection plan on your property, how you can get insurance on it?
Well, just so happens my wife is in underwriting and we've been down this road. We've looked into this currently in the fire and the insurance industry right now. With a volunteer fire department and the distance that it's from. It's not really considered protectable at this point anyway, whether it's a single home or double. So we have some other mitigation issues that we'll probably bring up here through this meeting that we have some ideas on, but not so sure that that's an issue either way.
Okay, another issue, you say that with the fire department was asking, maybe if you move the footprint where the house would be, and you're not willing to do that. And would the fire department, if footprint could be, I don't know if that's the right term for putting the house. Would the fire department be more willing to work with them if they could move that footprint? To make it,
It's one page that we could fold under, yes.
And I think we still come.
and
back
this is
to-
something you've got to really look at it, this is serious, I feel. In all aspects. With, like you said, the road is trying to get down it is something, but in the winter time and you don't have fire protection. You're saying you could get fire protection because it's so many miles, but if you have a variance against property saying the fire department won't go there.
Right.
I would say the insurance company's gonna say, fire department isn't gonna go there.
Yep.
I don't know.
We're kind of rare for rural Montana, we're class 6. And they are 2 miles away from our station. And the ISO rates properties that are up to 5 miles away from the station, so. I don't know who their underwriter is, and what information they're using, but. I've got a volunteer fireman that sells insurance in Anaconda, and he said that there is. A decreasing exposure, these companies are not liking these liabilities that are being generated out of California and Colorado. So they come to areas that are timbered and they're either not renewing or not
It's kind of hard, isn't it?
So it's coming. You know, take a couple more bad years and even my place at Georgetown I'll have to cut all the landscapers away from the house.
And I guess the thing is that, so. We're not saying it's not protectable ever, we're just saying. That the road gives issues and whether or not that can be mitigated. And so that's kind of what the commission needs to do now, is go through those mitigations and decide whether or not you feel like there's enough mitigation there to allow for the split. And the variance, because without the variance, the split doesn't happen. So is there enough mitigation there? Is there additional mitigation you think you could attach to maybe make it approvable? And if not, then you just need to clearly state on the record why you're denying, and it goes forward from there, and then they have the right to take it to court and try to process it that way.
Just a question too is there a chance we could close for a couple of minutes so we could ask Blaine a few questions? Cause this, you know,
You're talking about, closing for like,
just for like 3 minutes, or just some, cause I don't wanna bring up something else that we're already in, that's what's this, you know.
one thing I
On
was,
the water.
yeah, one thing I was gonna say.
And another one of these big water deals, and then here we go again.
Regarding the litigate, with potential possible litigation, if there's a fire and then the county sued or the fire department sued. The relying upon those covenants would be strong, but it'd still probably potentially be a jury question on that. I mean, it'd potentially go to a jury. So if they feel like there was negligence on so it'd be on a case by case basis, does the jury feel that it's reasonable for the fire truck to go down? Probably.
So on the cisterns, the fire department has. I'm gonna say tentatively agreed to the design that's there. So what they have proposed is a cistern that sits up at the top of the road. And then a dry line comes down out of that. And that line stays dry, it goes down to a hydrant, so it won't freeze in the winter. And then should they at some point need the water down there, they go, the fire department turns the cistern on. For all intents and purposes, and water goes down the line to the hydrant, and they take a pumper down there.
Well, how does this water keep from freezing up?
So you take a pumper down there, what, on foot?
No, they drive a pumper down.
It's like-
Right now, if we drove a pumper or some type of vehicle down there, I don't think we'd get out of there. So we'd have to hire somebody to pull us out.
Okay, this is
But-
your recommendation, or the
It
fire
is.
department's recommendation,
It is,
and they agreed to it.
there's, no,
They're not
they
good.
should have been given copies of
They've
it.
been given copies, we haven't talked to them
You're,
about
you're
that.
looking at two different sketches. One is showing what they have offered with the hydrant inlet at the shoulder of the road. But it goes down the hill to fill a cistern halfway to the site.
This one here.
Okay,
That's
so-
there. This is yours.
I got it.
That's theirs.
This is yours.
This one's there.
Why don't you guys come up here with?
You want-
Yeah.
I can bring it later. Yeah.
I'm here for workshop. Go ahead. Maybe he can point to it. and-
Yeah, let's have a look.
Here, I-
There.
The drawing as submitted,
Instead of what he thought.
it's showing the blacktop road. I'm looking at this one right here. And at the edge of the blacktop would be within, we're suggesting at least 10 feet so that we can reach it in the winter months. That would flow water down to these two cisterns that are mid-slope.
These here.
That's correct. That's correct. They're mid-slope. They're out of our range. And yes, the drawing would indicate that we would drive an engine down to that point, but again, we're going down the hill to access that water, that stored water. But from those two cisterns, then they have a lake going down to their building sites. Underground, anyway, a dashed line there. And that line would be the seemingly dry forever unless it was needed. There would be a valve that would allow the water out of those two cisterns to charge that line. So kind of by the design there, both lines would be dry year round until they were needed. This is my concept of what I was just trying to say. What it's showing is that the fire engine is pumping into the line that fills the cisterns. It's the other one. Look to the next one. Sorry, they're so close. Yeah. So in that case, we're flowing water into the cistern, and then because this is in place, the water would come out. There'd be a valve that would allow it to flow out, and we'd use that for fire purposes. The problem with this is there'd be no way to develop nozzle pressure, firefighting hose pressure. It would be gravity from that mid-slope tank.
down.
Yes, yes. The answer is we can supply that with water from mobile supplies, and we can keep those cisterns full until we were out of water, or we essentially put out the fire. But we'd have no way of boosting that pressure. So that's the awkward side of it.
Okay, so this one here, you could suck it out of that cistern and then pressure it through the fire, but cool it.
That's correct.
You have plenty of pressure with gravity.
Interpretation of things.
That's true. But with gravity, you know, you for every 2 feet of elevation, you gain 1 pound of pressure. I haven't measured the height of that cistern, but probably is 50 feet above the building site. So that would generate 25 pounds of pressure. Not really good pressure for us. We operate at 100 pounds. The second drawing would be if the cistern or the water supply was at the shoulder of the road where we could reach it with our engine. And then we would boost that pressure down to the line, and so we'd have our operating pressure at the fire ground. Again, that line would remain dry year-round unless needed. We'd have to go down the hill. Let's say it's lots of snow. We'd have to drag hose packs down the hill. Maybe there'd be a valve at the end of that hydrant. We've suggested a valve. We'd attach to it with our hoses, and then we'd go to work from there. So that's the discrepancy that we have. We've talked a lot about the location of that tank. And the best location is actually in the right of way of the county road. There's a dotted line showing right of way, and then there's the blacktop. In order for us to park an engine this time of the year with snow berm and pump into, or if there were a stored water supply, it would have to be right at the shoulder of the blacktop. And then we boost the pressure and send it down the hill. We've been working with these folks and suggesting, find us a site where we can plant this water. We walked across the road, there was a little smidge of ground there. I don't know whether that's been researched. There's some community property land a little bit up the road, 200 feet, that belongs to the Eccleston tracks. It's parkland. Maybe that could be massaged into a deal where there'd be a central water supply that everybody could use in the event there was a fire. But instead, we seem to be focused on what can be landed on their ground. Yes, that's the easiest thing to do because they own the land, but the topography doesn't lend itself to putting in the tanks that work for us. So that would be another variance. And we don't need those. We don't need that. What'll it be next?
I'm gonna let him keep.
Absolutely.
State your name and.
My name is Russell Martello. I'm a buddy. We bought the property together and created an LLC with the intent of splitting off and having our own parcels. I gotta add some clarity because there's some misconceptions that Fred's working off of here. So to start at the beginning, if you guys have a full-size plat, that's just a cutoff of the plat, of the proposed preliminary plat. If you look at it, the dry line actually goes down all the way to the base of the hill that is at a level slope with actually a turnaround loop for a truck to come off of the property where a built truck could fill the top and we would definitely have that inlet where that truck would park on Yorktown County Road. And it falls, that dry line runs all the way down to a loop that's a level piece of ground that a truck can pump up and charge and still have access within 1,000 feet of each house. It's more like. So what the discrepancy that Fred's going to show is the hydrant locations aren't at each individual location. It's at a central location, with a nice parking, drivable turnaround loop in the property. Or at the center of the property, the most level part of the whole round. And so that is where the engine would charge and actually, that's where the inlet would, or the outlet would be there, that hydrant. Everything else is true to how system components work. We agree to that. One of the inconsistencies of what he's telling you is that we've had this proposed system design. We've done our best to work with the fire department on many occasions. We met 3 separate times on site. We went and met at the fire hall to try to come up with a compromise solution to making this work, to what would work as an acceptable to the parameters set forth in the prevention plan, the design parameters of this system. And so we've had an on-site meeting with the planning board and all fire department members present, or a couple of fire department members present. We've had the hearing, and this design has been out there for 3 months. And the fact that we get a letter yesterday telling us that they feel like this is an insufficient design and come up with these drawings less than a business day before this hearing does not lend itself to good cooperation of trying to come up with a common design. I mean, we've had plenty of times to go over this, and if there was any issues, we've been more than willing to come up with any sort of recommended mitigation measures that have been presented to us. We've been more than willing to do it. What it comes down to is that we have an existing lot that can be divided on that. Like, my biggest question to the fire department is okay, you keep wanting to deny this split, this dividing line on this lot. That puts us back into a situation where there's no water, there's no berms. And my question is if I go build a home like my neighbors in this subdivision, one's a bed and breakfast, 8-bedroom bed and breakfast, the other one's a garage home. What are you gonna do? The road situation is still existing, doesn't go away. So what are we saying that you're gonna do as the lot stands, as we can build right now? What we're trying to do is say, hey, we're gonna develop this. We want to split this up so we can build 2, which is even better to take care of as stewards of the ground. We've already logged it. We've already we've mitigated. I'm not to reiterate what my buddy has said, but we've mitigated to an extent that we've decreased the fire risk on this property by us going in there. What we're trying to do by splitting it is to come to a compromise of these new measures that have come out after the commission and the time department has already accepted this as a recorded lot, buildable lot. So what we're doing is offering, okay, yeah, we'll do as much mitigation as we can. We'll provide fire suppression systems. And assist her if that's what we need to do. We'll create burn. So we're going to try to improve this property by you allowing us to split it. So there's 2 options. We can try to do our best to improve it with fire mitigations, or we go back to with nothing. And nothing changes for the obligation or the liability of the fire department, whether there's 2 lots or there's 1 lot. And what we're trying to do is better it with coming up with better solutions to allow for these new like regulations to implement themselves. It doesn't really seem like there's a good formalized strategy of how fire department wants to implement these strategies. We're more than years, but when you come at us with 5, you know, the 11th hour, how are we supposed to work to a solution when you haven't even proposed any sort of insufficiencies or deficiencies to us to the plan? We proposed an engineered, we have engineers that read the regulations and proposed a design that was sufficient to the parameters set in the prevention plan. So if there was any sort of insufficiencies of a design presented that we've had on the table for discussion for over 3 months, why haven't we talked about that? We keep going back to these designs.
Yeah. Go ahead, I just have a question.
We go back to the designs of Fred's drawings to address those drawings. The drawings that are trying to keep the cistern up top is just flat out impossible. We've already discussed that. You keep coming back to it. It's not feasible. We cannot fit those tanks when you can barely get a car in to get into the access to the lot. It's not a feasible option.
Under your plan, the cistern would be, where is it at?
As close as we can get it to top without, you know, with considering setbacks. We would get it as close. No, that's not right.
We're at in relation to the gate.
It would be on the outside of the gate. They're two, the size of the cistern are, the 2 cisterns would be the size of this one. So we did it on the back side of the gate where the access, to the doors, to the,
Just below the gate.
just below the gate where the inlet would come up to where the inlet would be on the,
That's where the fire.
on the outside of the gate. Where the truck could pull up on the county road and hook up to the inlet on the county road. Now, yes, the truck would have to get into the property to get to the outlet, but from our standpoint of protecting our homes, we want that outlet down by our homes. You know, if the issue is a true fire suppression measure, why can't we just do an internal sprinkler system? Why do we have to have a septic system? The septic system of installing a fire suppression system at the cost that we've discovered, this system is gonna cost for a 2-lot split. It makes no sense to install something and bury that and then say that no one has to use it. It makes no sense.
I think they would have.
So if we're gonna have to spend, for instance, $60,000 to put in a 10,000 gallon cistern, I would rather for a fire suppression strategy, I'd rather put that money in my own house. And I'd put internal sprinklers. And if that's the case, we can write it into the covenants that any sort of living space is required to have internal fire suppression. And we don't have trucks going down. Then all solutions, you know, less risk, more protection, but we can't come to an agreement on that because the comment was that there was no way to regulate. Well, we can do it through bonding, we can do it through writing it into our covenants. There are ways to handle that. This cistern idea, and especially the fact that we've had a hard time coming to this plan, and then all of a sudden, 10 minutes before the meeting, you know, 2 hours of business day before the meeting, we get a plan that this isn't gonna work. Leads me to think that we're not gonna come to a compromise, and we're not coming to a good amicable solution.
So you would be willing to put in a sprinkler system in each house?
Absolutely. If we didn't have to do it, I would exempt us. I would say, okay, I like Fred's comment in his letter. Let's exempt the regulations because this has already been an approved lot from the county. In the first place, this is already an approved. The big issue, and I don't disagree with the fire prevention plan 1 iota. But what it is designed for new major subdivisions. It's a very new document that is very unclear to whoever's managing it of how it's going to be implemented on minor subdivisions, subsequent minor subdivisions that have been grandfathered and approved under completely different circumstances.
So wouldn't this solve the problem if you put a sprinkler system in? And that would take care of the winter basically, because you guys wouldn't have to go down here. And then in the winter. In the summer, I think it'd get down, I mean,
Absolutely.
you know, so, I mean, so.
We've had concrete trucks, fully loaded tandems, log trucks, fully loaded log trucks. They could get in there, but I'm totally fine with, you know, I think I'm a strong advocate of private land rights. I think it's up to them to assume that risk.
Well, it's not just all about yours, so you gotta remember your neighbors.
Right, but we lessen that risk between times
The whole thing.
by logging it, you know, we can't log our neighbor's property, we can't log the national forest. But what we did, we can control on our own property, we've done to the fullest extent. So we tried to minimize, and we understand that we don't want to impact any community risk, but what we have done is lessen the impact.
Good.
Yeah, my name is Bill Paul, I'm with the fire department, and I agree, you know, sprinkler system, internal sprinkler system is a good idea. But again, the water is the issue. If you have a pump in your property, when you have a house fire, you're gonna lose your power. What's gonna run your pump? And like we've discussed here, if you have a tank up above, you don't have enough head pressure to run a sprinkler system.
Was there any way to set up the pump separate from the house so that you wouldn't lose?
I don't know, I suppose you could have your own, you know.
May I speak? There is, I have researched an internal suppression system through a company that installs them out of Missoula. You can do inline exterior pumps to keep them out of the house. They come from your system, from your well. With the well logs. Averaging the wells that are up there. I've been told that we may need an inline pump. It's kind of varied, it's right on the edge. Of if say a boost pump, or I'm not exactly sure the terminology on it. But it is a completely functioning system that can be pumped from the outside. So it's a cistern fed by a well with pumps, internal fire suppression system. I'd also like to add, when we're talking about these tanks, and you've been up there, that's a solid rock. That hasn't been brought up yet. That's a solid rock bony ridge right there. When we contacted to get electricity in, Northwest Energy won't even dig it. I do dirt work that's what I do. So I have to come up there and dig it. They won't dig through the rock because of how much problem they've had up there. So when we talk about these tanks, regardless of where they are, plus or minus 30 feet, it doesn't matter. The chances of burying tanks, and I went and looked at them, they're sitting in the yard at Montana Precast, and they would barely fit in this room, 2 of them, are gonna be next to impossible to get them buried 6 feet deep. You know, we're sitting on solid rock. So these options, you know, that are up in the air and these different ideas, you know, we don't want to be stuck to this final plot approval is gonna stem on this cistern working perfectly because there's too many variables. What if we can't bury them? Then the water freezes. You know, so I'm at that.
I'm Kurt Under, Georgetown Lake Fire. I'd just like to remind the commissioners that when our standards were approved, Granite County specifically excluded mitigation with sprinkler systems. And they did that because there was no way to inspect and make sure those systems were running on a yearly basis. So there's an issue with those not being approved by Granite County for mitigation.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I have a question on the variance thing. When they submit their subdivision application, does the variance come with it, or is this after the fact?
the variance comes with it.
So the variance comes with it, and then the fire department didn't respond until.
No, and I guess that's one thing that I think we need to clear up. I understand the developers are frustrated with the process. But the process is what the process is. You have to go through subdivision review. It's not just a, draw the line done. You have to go through the process. The fire department is not in the business of developing their fire mitigation. The fire department's in the business of reviewing what they submit. So they reviewed what they've submitted and they've tried to, I think, make changes. I think there's been good faith on both sides, but I think all sides are very frustrated at this point. And, we're just at the point where we need to kind of make a decision and try to go forward with the process. I think the fire department's letter that they submitted yesterday was a good faith step, saying, okay, we don't really want the variance, but if you are going to grant the variance, these are a couple of other mitigation facts that we would like to see. Not we want to stymie your design, but recognizing that we would really not like to take the truck down. We just don't want to take the truck down. Can you bring a pipe up to the road? And if you have to do that, we aren't going to be able to get pressure. So can we just can the commission exempt out this section? I think both parties are good with that exemption. If certain things are exempted out so that the fire department doesn't have the responsibility and the developer isn't put in a situation to bury a tank where it's impossible to bury a tank. And if you've been up there, it is rocky. You can't get a tank buried. I don't see how you could get a tank buried there myself.
One issue, the cistern being next to the right of way, I mean, that'd be a safety issue, wouldn't it? And so.
They have, Fred was saying that there are other cisterns in the right of ways with, and that the flowers just kind of know they're there and they make sure they're accessible and everything. The question on this one with that tank placement is the ground. I mean, it is rocky and it's narrow there. So they're saying they just don't feel like they can get it into that spot. They think they would have to go further down the hill. And the fire department saying, well, if you have to go further down the hill, could you bring a dry line up to the road so that we don't have to take our power down the hill? But given that that's going to have to happen, we aren't going to get the pressure we want. So can the commission exempt out certain regulations, which I think you guys have the right to do.
Is that dry line something that was agreeable? I didn't catch that.
They haven't said whether they would bring that dry line up or not. So that's one thing that still has to be asked, if they would bring that one last dry line up to the road. But that I think is, and then have certain pieces exempted out of the fire standards. It's just not going to happen. Like they aren't going to be able to pressurize it to a certain point, and that's just how it goes.
Amazingly, you can sit silent for a while and all your questions get answered. And that's where I'm at. I took some notes and a couple of them already been hit on. But, you picked up on the fact that the cisterns are in the soft ground, but they're halfway down the hill. So there's our 14% and an unplowed access, maybe most of the time. So that's the issue with that setting. We talk about locations. They don't like rock. Who does like rock unless you're in the business? We are not the design people. We are saying what we'd like to have happen. We aren't going through the neighborhood talking to the neighbors saying, how about it? Would you want to go partners on a setting where we could plant this water? We carry lots of hose and we could move that cistern to another location, limited by hose length, and it would become more of a community feature. But these folks seem to want to focus only on their ground because they're dealing with themselves. And the complaint is the rock. I understand that. I get it. But we are not in the design business. And they have, yes, they've contracted to Eli and Associates, and they've They just moved their cursor and dropped some tanks and said, there you go, put them there.
Well, I think, in my opinion, you know, it's not that you're trying to stop them from building or doing anything, but yet. It's, that you guys have got an obligation that you wanna do a good job and fight fires too. And I mean, that's where I'm hearing that they didn't see some of this and that, and I totally understand that, you know, it needs to be tabled for another week, it can be, you know, I wouldn't mind going looking and seeing what. But I'm not, I don't know.
I don't think much building's gonna get this time of the year unless they're set up for cold weather. But maybe it deserves another thought or another option.
You know, and I don't wanna put it off either, cause I know they're trying to move and do stuff and try to figure out what they're gonna really actually do. You know, with this.
Linda.
Chuck.
Still,
Sorry.
I don't see why we can't alleviate this whole problem with the sprinkler system. I mean, that pretty much, I mean, they're pretty sound at the legislature. A couple of years ago, they tried to get every new house to have a sprinkler system. I mean, so they must be reliable. So I'm gonna consider them reliable. And why not just put a sprinkler system in? We can get it in there, each house. The fire department doesn't have to go down there in the winter time.
All good thought, Chuck. I'll give you that. But they're touching on it slightly. If they drill a well and they only get 3 gallons a minute, that's not enough for a sprinkler system. So they're gonna have to put in a cistern. So they'll have stored water. Somebody will have to engineer that volume. They'll have to have a backup pump for that. We've already talked about that. Whether it's electricity from some other source underground, but not attached to the house. I get that. But if the sprinkler system went off at the hospital, does that mean the fire department doesn't come? No, usually we're catching the fire at its incipient stage. Fire department still has to respond to see if there's any extension.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to take a big truck down there normally. I mean, if everything's all wet, I mean, yeah, you can go down there and mop up.
That's the term.
Whatever, yeah, put the cistern, it all kind of depends on how much. Water is going in the well. What's the neighbors got? What do they have? Like.
I would think maybe 3 gallons a minute.
I don't know.
Some have 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
The guy is, who's 7 is probably, I would 7, 5, 9 on the top. The guy at our elevation, I can't think of the road kind of down in there further a little bit north. He has 23. So, you know.
Yeah.
Blanche has.
Linda, the exemptions. Are those exemptions that have to be in the variance?
Yeah, so
And
those,
they're not in there right now?
right, they're not the things that the fire department is wanting, yeah, they're not in there right now. So I think that the letter you see that came in recently is the fire department's response in essence to the planning board's decision or recommendation, saying that they said, okay, let's go forward with the variance. And so they're saying, okay, if we are gonna go forward with the variance, can we at least get these last couple of things added on, because it is further mitigation then that we feel like maybe the variance would be sustainable or.
So this would be something, sorry, this would be something that the county commission would say, on this variance, we want these exemptions that the fire department is recommending before we would approve it.
You would give preliminary plat with the conditions added that these things will be noted in the covenants that they are being exempted on the fire department. And then whatever else, you know, you added as mitigation would go into covenants or onto the plat. But yeah, they would go as conditions, they wouldn't come on as.
So in your opinion, you're saying that we're right now, we're at a rock and a hard spot, and we're at a point where there's no concession between either one, or are we talking about possibly, can we visit this together again and come back here? And if if all else fails, we need to have those exemptions in the variance
So
to approve the subdivision.
essentially, you're at this is my opinion, they can correct if they want, this is my opinion though. We're at the point where the developers offered their mitigations, the fire departments offered their mitigations. State law says that the commission has to review all of the mitigations offered, you can add mitigations, but you have to, talk to the developer about anything that you're gonna add. And you have to express due consideration and weight to their choice. But I don't think if you give it, this is my own opinion, I think if you give it a week for your benefit to go look at it, sure, there's benefit there, but I don't think anything's gonna change on the table. I think what's on the table is what's on the table. And they have mitigated together as best they can to this point, and you now need to just make a decision. A couple of other things, you have until December 5th to act on this one. You have to act on it before December 5th, so you do have room to do another week if you want. The other thing on sprinklers is that we did take sprinklers off the table a long time ago because the state law said that if you don't have a building inspector, you can't do sprinklers.
Right.
So we don't have a building inspector. It doesn't mean they can't offer sprinklers. It means that we can't suggest sprinklers. So you could, in essence, take sprinklers, but they may not work. You'd have to say, well, you can put the sprinkler in, but you're on your own as to whether they work, and we're not inspecting them because we have no ability to inspect them.
Why can't we do that?
You could do that. You
We
could
don't
do
have
that.
a building inspector in Grant County.
Blaine,
I guess I would ask the developer if they would meet with the fire department one more time, if they're willing to. I mean, that's something you're willing to do? Or is it the point where you're ready to?
Well, I mean, we've been looking to for a long time. I mean, I really don't see us getting much farther, especially if we're going back to where we started in this letter that came out yesterday. You know, like, you know, we're getting to the point where, you know, we're turning up and we're turning in a circle to where all it's doing is incurring engineering fees. And, you know, we're to this point where we've laid everything out on the table. We feel like we met the prevention plan parameters. If there's any deficiency specifically, right, we need something that's concrete, not just, we've had time for design conceptually thinking. In fact, that we got this conceptual thought that is great. I think it would be a great benefit to the community if we could fit it up there, but we don't have the land. It's not our responsibility to go try to barter with neighboring lots and be like, hey, can we put this on your land? Can we go to the national forest and we just like, hey, can the forest, the fire department lease this piece of ground for you? That's where, you know, Linda told us at one of the meetings that some of the people that have divided have actually done cash payment in lieu of a cistern, where it goes into a general fund. We're not gonna be the last subsequent minor subdivision that comes across these new fire prevention regulations. Why not build a fund? You know, that's another option. Build a that we proposed that got denied, but you know how it reads in the fire prevention plan is, and I think this question got relayed to county attorney, is about who is the AGH, who is the authority having jurisdiction. And what it's come down to is that the county commission has the ultimate say on whether or not they can accept sprinklers. It's specifically, there's specific language in the prevention plan that sprinkler systems are allowable if allowed by the AGH. Or AHJ.
Blaine Bradley, county attorney. I guess I'd have to say I'd have to research that issue for you.
Well,
to do that.
yeah. and then-
But I mean, I'm not disputing what Linda, I just haven't.
No, but
yeah.
I mean, getting, you know, we got like two different sides here now, so one saying that we can say, we got then, who's gonna prove it? Seeing and that's back in, that's like he's saying, it's over back.
Yeah, I think,
You're wondering if he's a fire department, is it county planning department? Is it county
Well-
commissioners, or?
And that's what we're saying is we have no, you could say, we're accepting the sprinklers as their water. As fire mitigation for water. So that's essentially what we're talking about, water. But you'd have to caveat it that we aren't going to inspect them, we can't guarantee they work. I mean, you really have to caveat it, cause we
Oh, yeah.
can't inspect them, so it's like, it's sort of like a do it on your own head type of thing. We don't have the ability to do it.
And like you're saying, they're supposed to have so many pounds, how we gonna?
We won't.
What if we wrote
Just
something in the
throws it all
covenants?
back into a whole green,
Inspections.
you know? Go ahead, Blanche.
What do you, Linda, do you suggest we go ahead? I and accept this with the variance, with the fire department's exemptions, the mitigation complete the way it is.
So, I guess for
Did it, because where are we at? We're not gonna resolve anything. The fire department has put forward how they feel about it. It has to be in the variance, correct?
right, so essentially the question is, it's going to come back. Sorry, I gotta get my thing here.
So all these mitigations are in the variance.
So it's gonna come down to. Asking the developer if you guys leave the cistern where you are proposing it. Do you think you can take a dry pipe up to the road and? So that they can pump water into the cistern?
If we can bury them. Otherwise we freeze our water.
Well, it's a dry line.
But the tank,
But we're saying if you bury the tank where you're proposing to bury the
Right.
tank.
yeah, if we can get it buried there.
Yeah,
That's where we concern later.
can you, so we're not saying move the tank, we're saying, can you take a pipe out of that tank, a dry line and the connections up to the road? So they don't have to come off the road and they can pump into it.
Okay, I got a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
What if they used a smaller tank? 5,000, what's that on? Just 10,000, because then you shorten it, if it's that down rock, you can take down, you might be able to lower it 2 feet, you know, say the top of the tank.
Well, they've said they can
But at
bury,
least that way, bring it off a dry up to it.
but then the fire department,
See what I'm
then the water amount doesn't beat the fire rates either, so it's like you're giving one for another. They would rather have the water, this is me speaking for you for a second, Fred. I think they would rather have the water lower with that dry pipe up and have the sufficient amount of water than to have less water closer to the road.
got something? I mean, we're trying to get something here
Yeah,
on both sides. We gotta support you and him.
sure,
And this
absolutely.
has opened up a big deal here, and that's why I asked about smaller tanks, if it's easier to bury.
You're trying to
Yeah.
come up with an idea to
Trying to-
mitigate, that's. what
Gotta
you're
make
doing,
it work, one
So-
way or another.
My question would be then to the fire department, you know, I don't see why it couldn't be answered right now, because I'm sure they've thought of it, is. We have all these issues with the tank and the dry line and where it can be put and if it can be buried. We have an issue if we go to a smaller tank, then they don't have enough water, so we're really essentially in the same boat.
But you're saying bringing that dry line up, they're gonna have the pressure in that. I'm just trying to look, because you're saying, you know, if that big tank, you can't get it down.
Yeah, there's
Can't
two,
But you get them a smaller tank down, at least by the time they get there, they have the access and the pressure and push the water out. Right, Fred, something like that? I know it's going out of a whole different.
The volume.
Yeah, you're saying for 2 miles from a fire station, so a truck should be there quick to be refilling the 5,000
That's what I
gallon
was
tank.
thinking, that,
Sure.
they
you
have to go
know,
to.
then you're getting the tanks buried.
No, I appreciate both of your thoughts. I mean, the gallonage is the volume that you need to put out the fire with. And that's an estimate from an NFPA manual. You know, that we estimated these gallonages, it's by volume. And certainly it's gauged by type of construction. The class of building that they build. Now, if they build a totally concrete building, it lowers the class, so it would require a little less water. But again, now we have the same dilemma as the sprinkler system with no building inspections. Can we be sure that we're getting a different class of structure than what they say they'll build?
So every residential house in Montana is built with a sprinkler system, is inspected every year.
They're supposed to be inspected.
Oh, I'm sure they're not.
Well, I'm sure they're not too, but they're supposed to be.
I think the issue there is they're saying, well, you could put it in the covenants required to be inspected, but then. The people that are enforcing the covenants are the two different landowners, unless you're putting the county in to enforce the covenant. My advice is for the county to stay out of enforcing covenants.
Those two landowners are gonna call me and say, who's coming to inspect this? And I'm gonna be like. Not the county, we don't have anybody, not the fire department, you'll have to hire somebody independently to inspect it. And that's when it's like, well, yeah.
Do they have to have somebody independently inspected?
Sure, you could, it's just whether it's gonna ever get done.
You're gonna have to put the county into though, and for it be able to be a party to enforce
We
the
be the ones
covenant.
enforcing
Yeah.
it, do
With the
that,
county right in the
and
middle of
down there,
enforcement.
swimming for the beach.
So I guess if we just went with the cistern plan in place, so we're leaving it buried where in your preferred site. We're leaving the line, the dry line going down to the hydrant but you're going to add that dry line up to the road so that they can fill according to this, so. They're asking that you bring the dry line up. And then they're asking as part of the covenants and this, that you require them to add into the covenants a statement that says that certain aspects of the Georgetown Lake Fire Department standards are impossible to meet because of this standpipe. Can you guys do that part?
No,
Are you willing to do that?
willing, but it is, and it's not feasible to get the dry line output, the hydrant back up to the road. Where the tanks can be buried. I mean, we're talking about 25 to 35 feet of a deep line, of a deep hydrant. That's why I had to go down below it, because can't get the output back up to where the inlet is.
So they're not agreeable, so they're not agreeable.
So you guys
Well, the
can't
land
use
isn't-
dry line up.
Yeah, it's just, it's an engineering feat that can't be accomplished.
If I understand correctly, water seeks its own level. And yes, if they dug 30 feet to get us back to the blacktop, we with our engine wouldn't be able to draw from 30 feet. We're limited by suction.
Yeah.
At this elevation, we're gonna be lucky to come around 15 feet. That's not the best. We're always trying to decrease the suction. So yes, we need to ideally put wheels next to the tank, and the tank is maybe 13 feet underground at the bottom. So that's our design goals, so to speak.
Yeah, in essence, remove the unit line, not to.
So
design.
I guess so is there anything, if they leave that tank there, there's really nothing that they can do to mitigate at that point? Getting it closer to the road, if they just can't physically get it further
Well,
closer.
As drawn. That puts the tanks below the arch or the log entrance gate.
Mhm.
That means we have to run some type of a pumping apparatus down the hill, down the 14% grade. And then establish our flow from that location. And that's what we are trying to avoid. We realize that there'll be snow. We've got it now. We're trying to avoid the 14% grade.
Blaine, this is a question for you, and I don't know if you know, but the Shakopee Heights up there has a piece of land that's across from Lookout One. Do you know if they would be, is that county owned or is that owned by the Shakopee homeowners?
It's likely owned by the homeowners, but I do not know for sure the potential for, but. They could be talked with.
But, okay, so,
Mike, excuse me for interrupting. We've got a Shakopee Heights volunteer here.
Yeah, I live in that subdivision. We've had informal discussions and they're certainly open. In fact, they've talked about putting something on that parkland in terms of fire protection in the past.
It's owned by the homeowners?
It is, it's owned by the homeowners association. And there's a water district on that side of the road as well, and you see water.
so And that's, I mean, that's 2.5 acres, and it's on the other side of the road, which seems to be better for digging purposes. I mean, it doesn't seem to be as rocky over there based on some of the houses that have gone in over there. They don't look like
When
they're.
you guys bought this and realtors, they say there's gonna be no problem, we can get this done and do this and do that.
Well, it appeared there was an easement.
Yeah, it was. This was another one of them deals.
There-
So-
We didn't understand the easement. It's not. Yeah, they saw it.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be their deal with the realtor, I guess, or whoever, if they made a misrepresentation.
This is
Yeah,
happened before,
yeah.
this hot water stuff that we get through into this, that. It's all about protection and trying to make everything work.
And
They're let on as a false, wow.
this is why sometimes the planning board comes back saying no more splits. And unfortunately, in this situation, the covenants got written saying, oh, everybody gets one more split. Which, then when people go pull the covenants and look at it, it looks like, oh, hey, I get, I can get subdivide this. And it's really misleading. It's very misleading. And that's why we do a lot of times say no more splits.
What's your idea on the Shakopee Heights, just having it in there and saying they work with to attempt to get that done?
I think the only choices you have at this point are to say approve it as it stands, as the design is. And you could caveat and say, should you be able to locate it over in Shakopee Heights, that's great, but. I mean, yeah, it's like, we're stuck with sort of the design we're stuck with at this point, unless.
This,
Just a second, please. I agree with her, we approve it as is. And then let them, what do you think, Blaine? It's just because we're getting nowhere right now. We're getting,
Yeah, I don't wanna tell you one way or another, but you guys, I think,
I'm going-
you guys are reasonable.
I wanna go on Linda's recommendation. And you were recommending that we go your opinion, because it really means a lot. Cause you absolutely know what you're talking about, and I think that we need to go with, what is your recommendation?
So essentially, you are stuck with a really cruddy design initially. A really cruddy design, that flag lot design, really awful. And you're in a position where both sides are right to some degree. Right now, it is developable. They could go put a house on it, and then there's no water. There's no cisterns, there's nothing to protect. If it does get split, at least there's water now that's available, and it is available for the fire department to pull for all the structures in the area. The fire department, I definitely can sympathize with them, because I'll tell you, as a person who's not a volunteer fire department person anyway, but there's no way I would dive off that hill. Ever. I mean, I would not dive off the hill. I was hesitant to take my car down it in the summer. That's just me. I'm not wanting to go down it. So I understand where the fire department is, and I understand where the developer is. You really are in a rock and a hard place. So I thought the planning board did a good job of mitigating. I think if you do leave the design as is, that you can still put a couple of the things in here. I think you can still put a notation in here that some of the fire department guidelines are not going to be met. And I think you can still require them to have their fire protection plan approved prior to coming back to the commissioners for final plat. But yeah, I mean, you gotta give kudos to the fire department, because as Fred says, if it goes in, one of us is gonna pucker up and go down it, and it's like, I'm glad it's not me. I wouldn't do it. It's a scary driveway. That's all there is to it. It's a scary driveway.
The only thing they've offered is to berm the road. You want guardrails or a berm? And I don't think I want to drive a truck down a luge run. You know, I might actually, once you get started down there, you may actually skid right past the cistern. the
Well,
water source.
berms will be another problem. You know, you'd have the west bend blows up there. I mean, it's got a drift and you put a berm on it, you're just gonna fill in the road of snow. And then also in the spring or whenever rains hard,
Just a funnel.
it's a funnel, yeah, you can have a creek going down the road and it's gonna wash it out. So I don't think it's a good point.
Good point. No, I think the fact that we are discussing an alternative site makes sense. I mean, was it our place to suggest how to fix their problem? I'm not an engineer. And it just seems like everything we do the easiest way. That's human nature. And to walk across the street and deal with somebody else is not what we wanted to do apparently in this setting.
And you could require them to try to work with. Yep, Shakopee Heights, get an alternate site over on that other site. And have the cisterns buried over there for the fire department.
Saying no.
Well, we're just, I mean, my thought is, what if they say no?
Well,
What if we-
wait, you can finish. So you could require that of them, but it has to have a caveat saying if it's I mean, cause there is language in the state law that says you can't place covenants on them that are non-attainable, that they actually cannot attain. So you have to give some kind of caveat that says, well, if that doesn't work, then you have to have
That's good
a
advice.
backup.
That's good advice.
Well, we've overrun here. I think it's time to kind of try to move ahead here and see. It's a toughie.
Well, if we resolve this one, well, maybe the next one won't be tough.
Shit, Brad. It's important both sides here. I'm not trying to make, that's why it's for the smaller things, just trying to make this work between both of us. For all of us. I mean, it's just, this is a bad deal. This is something that. I mean, they got this little narrow coming down, you don't have room here, forget that, you know, it's. When they set these up and like Eli and them, they don't care. They just put this together and throw you a chunk, you know, say, hey, this is it. They don't go through all of it that we have to. We're the ones sitting here, all of us in this room are the ones that have to face this shit. And it just gets to the point that they frustrate you.
That, I was just gonna, to get to your point, that's all we really have. The only way to make this better is by allowing these regulations to come into effect by allowing a subdivided lot. If we go back to a lot as it stands, approved already, we can't unwind the clock on that. That is the issue. We're never gonna get out of that issue. What we're doing here, the only way we can fix this problem is by allowing the subdivision to happen and try to come up with a situation that works for all parties. And whatever that answer is, it's gonna improve, but it's how it stands right now. That's all, that's my closing remark.
I like Linda's idea on the requiring them to talk to Shakopee Heights. If it's unattainable, then it's unattainable.
And you go back to the original location. I guess the one last question maybe for Fred and the fire department is. If the location is gonna end up, if the tank location is gonna end up on their property down there. Would you rather have the tank still, or would you rather have the cash at that point? And then seek a different spot yourself?
I can't give you a yes or no answer, I'm sorry. We touched on insurance. All insurance companies like to use the ISO as their rating organization. We also look at ISO standards. One of their standards is, can we establish a flow of water to a fire at 250 gallons a minute and sustain it for 2 hours, 30,000 gallons. So actually, we're kind of on the point, leading edge of this change maybe. where when they start canceling fire insurance policies, they will start looking more and more at ISO standards saying, you have a viable fire department within 5 road miles. Can they pump that volume of water for the required time? So in a sense, if we slight this plan, this place will never be insured, maybe, should the rules change. Is that close to your answer?
But that's on them at that point. I
Right.
mean, so I guess, but that's my one thing that I would want maybe the fire department to think about is, you know, if it's gonna be that they can't get Shakopee Heights to agree to a tank location, are you going to want it in that location, knowing that there's risk even getting to it, or would you at that point be willing to just take the money and, I don't know, maybe, like he said, just exempt them from the fire regs altogether?
Let me say right now, I would rather wait and hear the results before I start cutting another deal. My first choice is water.
Okay. Even
We're
if
only-
it's in that bad location.
I don't like their location. Shakopee has an option. Across the road from Shakopee, on their side of the road is a neighbor. They've got a natural depression that would maybe work well. This isn't the only landowner in that area. It's one landowner that maybe would actually pony up some water. So we're trying to massage the best deal to the fire department.
Right.
I'm not out here to beat these guys up. I just,
Oh, I
Elaborate on that, just
Go ahead, you're gonna have to move on.
where that driveway hits the road. There's a neighbor to the south. Who, their property extends across the road to the edge of, to the end of the easement for the road. So they actually have, what is it, Fred, 30 feet?
something like that, the little triangle.
No, I'm just talking about the road easement. From the
Oh.
pavement to the east side of the road, there's a 30-foot strip that the neighbors own that they're not gonna be able to do anything with. It's in the easement for the road. I mean, that's kind of dead land to them. So there's a neighbor on both sides who have dead land on the opposite side of the road, which is accessible to us, and it would be fill. It wouldn't be rock chiseling because it's lower on the south side, you know?
They would have to.
There's
go-
options
Excuse me.
beyond Shakopee.
They would have to go before whoever owns that road right away. I don't know whether it's the Forest Service or whether the county has gone off and on, because the county does maintain it. They blade it every storm. Who owns the road right away? Can that tank be built within that right of way? I don't know that.
Well, then there again, you're opening up stuff that people are gonna start then come and say, well, you know, can we put this on your right of way? We've been lately just trying to keep everything off our damn right of ways, cause we've had so many conflicts with stuff sitting and, you know, you start putting a tank on the right of way and next thing you know, we hit it and then we're buying. I mean, I'm not against, I'm just saying we can look into it. I'm just,
But what he was saying was having look at all the,
Yeah.
talking to all the neighbors.
yeah, not just one.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're gonna have to move ahead, we're way over, what do you think? I know it's a tough here. On Linda's recommendation, do we go that route and?
Say it again.
If we have to get this done, we have to do that.
So it would be to take the planning board's recommendation essentially. With the requirement that they add a condition saying that there's certain aspects of the Georgetown Lake Fire Protection Standards that are impossible to meet. They put that in their covenants and then they put in a requirement that says, or then another condition that says, that they have to get, they have to comply with requirements and standards of the fire department before final plat. So they have to essentially present their fire prevention plan to the fire department and have the fire department sign off on it.
And what if they don't?
And we're not okay with that, because that's where we are now.
Whoa, yeah, okay, we're trying to get this, motion made here.
What if the fire department doesn't sign off on it?
Well, that's the thing, the fire department would either have to sign off on it or not make notations of where they cannot comply.
I would assume that we would counter with another letter. And that would be entered in as your choice, whether you say, I've heard enough from them, or they make a good point.
So right now, they're not complying with your request, and you're saying no. You're saying no, just yes or no.
You
So
guys
the
are
number
saying
three.
no to what
number
they're
three.
suggesting.
For the last statement.
So
So
they're
yes,
saying no.
so we're in a non-compliance, so I would then say, I think you should give another week. Put it back on your agenda for next week and let the fire department respond with one more.
And then there's an opportunity, they can talk to other people there might be some pop up that will help all of us, so. I don't know.
I hate to say it, but in 1 week, our request, our list is not gonna change. If they come back and say, we've talked with the landowner, we've got a plan in the works, that's what we wanna hear. Otherwise, what's the difference? We'll just photocopy this again, change the date.
The only thing that I would like the fire department to at least talk amongst yourselves about is whether or not you want that tank location in their preferred spot. Or if you would just at that point prefer to have the cache. If it has to go, they cannot find another place for it and it has to go where they're proposing it. Do you still want it, the tank location?
We can entertain that, but I'd like to have proof that they contacted. them.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it without having, I mean, not just I'm telling you,
Yeah.
you'd have to have something showing that they had tried to go out, reach out here and that, I'm not just gonna let this slide through and say hell of it.
Correct, thank you.
I just want you guys to know, we're trying to make this work, support both sides. This is a toughie. This stuff gets brought to us and then it puts us in this big predicament. And it's like, I know you feel like we're trying to fight against you and they think we're fighting against them. We support both sides. This is a damn tough one. It's, when you buy stuff like this, and there's just so many regulations and stuff that comes in the back that people don't hear about until then all of a sudden when they start doing it, then it falls back and we gotta be the bad people. Right?
You're absolutely right, Scott.
I mean, it's nothing against you guys, and I hope we can make this work, serious.
Regarding the berm, you guys were thinking the
No.
guard, you were
I
thinking
don't
the
want
guard,
a berm. I mean, I'd be against the berm, not just.
so you do a condition as a guard.
Yeah, that berm thing, we've seen that, we've tried doing that stuff, and that's just a bumper bar setup. And it's bad for them, bad for you, and it's just one shot down and. Well, I guess we gotta move on, so.
So you're gonna table till next week.
Yeah,
And I have an 11 a.m.
that's fine.
for next week.
Okay. You guys do it, we just gotta do it, and that way it leaves everybody else have a little more and then use it. What's that?
No, is next week, no, next week's the week before Thanksgiving,
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's the week of Thanksgiving, it's
Yeah.
22nd.
is next week? Oh,
Yeah.
it's
next week is
it's,
Thanksgiving.
yeah, 2 days before Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Can you guys make that?
So the 20,
Could you be on Zoom or?
Quite honestly, I have a family hunting camp and I know that has no bearing on what the situation is, but I'm out of town in the service. It's Thanksgiving.
What about,
Can you bring have them or somebody bring you made the attempt to look and try to make this work, that's all right.
Yeah,
And then
we
then
did
we'll
try
go
to
through.
I
We'll make the motion and move ahead. But we have to have proof that you're actually gonna go talk to them, the other, just try to get this.
Tuesday the 25th.
The 29th?
So
how about
the
the 29th?
even do that, we can't even do all that, we can't contact the homeowners association or neighbors, get all that information, get an answer back in 1 week.
29th is what I'm doing.
I mean,
I can do that, and what are we looking for, proof of attempt to contact?
I'm kind of what we're saying.
Yeah, I mean,
Going by, you know, just to try to make it work.
yeah.
I add one thing just to, as a last ditch effort here for the fire department, so we can end this. Are this, it seemed when we were back here and we were on fire sprinklers, it was fire sprinklers. Exempt them from certain things and we were done, like we were there and it was there, and then we moved back to. You know, this tank, and why we concern is this, is if we go forward and we don't get anybody from the landowners, they say you can have this property. And so we have to put the tank where we can fit it, and the tank doesn't fit there.
Whoa. Oh, sorry. Stop.
He wants $500 wide.
And, so then we're back in the same circle of, we come back again and we say, okay, well, we have to put the tank there, and then the final say on final recording is like Fred said. They have to stay on their stands, which we understand. They have to say no. So then we go through this all more and we try to bury tanks and it doesn't work and we're out. You know, who knows what by then, and then the final say is no, because you can't move the tank up the hill. It seemed to me like we were making way more ground on, let us put fire suppression systems in our house. And we're not gonna be utilizing the tanks in the winter no matter what. Which we understand, and don't think that we appreciate these, we don't expect them to put their equipment or their people in any harm's way to salvage a house in the winter. Now, we also understand that in the summer, it's a danger to the community, but we can get in there in the summer. So we veered off of that, and it seemed like we were like at an agreement, and I was a while ago just gonna simply ask Fred right here, Fred, would you be okay with that? Can we just do a suppression system? We don't want our houses to burn. We're not selling these houses to upmarket there for our families. Like, why can't we just put a suppression system in it, get this thing done, then we can all move on?
I'd want to see a proposal. Is that an
Absolutely.
interior and an exterior? Your
Absolutely.
exposure is higher on the
You guys
outside.
Good with that,
No, I am.
Blanche? Linda?
So is that something that you maybe could get to the fire department next week and then they could have a week to review it and we meet on the 29th?
Absolutely, as long as we're good with us, there's a variation in exact square footage on your home, right? So for my fire protection guy that I've hired to design this thing. So there's a variance on that until we verify exactly what our home is, but he can give us all the specs and exactly what that system's gonna consist of. Now, he can't give you a blue beam drawing of it in every room, because that hasn't been designed, we haven't got that far. But
And
we
then
can certainly give you,
you'd be willing to sign something that it would be checked every year, something like that, cause we have to have some.
That'd be a covenant.
Right.
So we have to hire an outside engineer as part of the homeowners association. It's their responsibility of each homeowner. Two lots, because we'd be subservient to other existing covenants. That they're required to have an annual inspection by a licensed engineer.
Right, you offer something like that?
I think that the
It's by the
inspection,
fire department.
the independence inspection is very critical. I think that it would be best to have it random so that there are inspections in the height of the winter. So that the system isn't dried and put to sleep. And
No, there'd be something right, that it has to work, I'm not.
and I don't know who's gonna do the inspection. We're relying on the contractor now.
Well, they'd say they'd have, we'd throw it back in their field, I mean, if we can make this work with something like that, then I'm sure they're willing to get somebody. And it,
The covenant could add in your inspection language there. The issue we talked about was, you know, who enforces that, but if they then don't enforce it themselves and then bring litigation, they're gonna lose the litigation, because
well, that's
Yeah.
why I'm saying they gotta
Yeah.
sign something off, that we're throwing it back on their.
Yeah.
plate now. I'm just trying to make something work, I don't know,
It's easy enough to write in our prevention plan and then the proposed covenants. Just get that language in there and then be done. I mean, then we can get off of the cistern design.
You need 2 weeks and we can bring this back to the table. You guys good with that in 2 weeks?
Yep, I can do 29th at 10.
Blanche, Josh, 2 weeks? That,
It has to be done by the 5th.
yeah, but
Yeah.
at least that way it gives him time, he's going hunting and then
give you time.
gives him time to get other people on. Fred, you good with that?
Is everyone kind of raise their?
I mean.
And it would be with the caveat that you guys have a week to get it to them and then they'll have a week to get.
So just so we're clear, then we're gonna get the sprinkler design with the pumps, what we're gonna use, all of that. On a basically a bid sheet from our fire suppression guy to the fire department. Is that what you'd like to see, Fred?
Well, yeah, you're going out for an estimate. And I'm not curious what the cost is. I wanna know that it gets in the structure.
Sure.
Well, I think that's like I'm saying, they're gonna have to sign something, it's gonna be done down
Yeah.
there, we're not gonna
Yeah.
approve this stuff, I mean,
I-
I don't have no choice. I mean, if they're willing to work with you and sign something, saying that they're gonna do it, and if they don't, I guess there will be leakage, right, Blaine, am I talking a little too far out, or?
You're talking about it was in the covenant and they didn't do it.
I'm not,
Um,
yeah, it has to be in the cup. Linda?
Then it's the landowners there that are enforcing against each other.
Yeah, and then essentially not only that they have to inspect it themselves, but maybe specific language that the fire department is exempt from.
Yeah.
From-
From
yeah.
inspecting them
Yeah.
and.
They pay for their
reviewing them
own,
In any way, shape, or
Special.
Do this, and in 2 weeks at 11 o'clock, right, Billy? you said?
10 a.m.
10
Let's do
o'clock
10
in
a.m.
2 weeks. We gotta move on, yeah.
Yeah.
it's way over, so, yeah, that's all I know, I mean, it's.
Tabled for 2 weeks.
Yeah. it's 2 weeks,
Mm.
that's it, Fred?
Okay, so basically what you're trying to do is get something written in the covenants that the fire service area will approve. And the variance,
Right, they're gonna try to get some information on fire sprinklers, provide that to the fire department, and then the fire department can comment back on that.
And
And
The
you
only-
can, then you can do the variance with
the only
those
way
mitigation.
this fire department will approve is if this is a set in stone type situation. That has to be in place,
And has to be inspected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's back on them.
then,
They
yeah,
have-
then it goes on to the person that buys the property.
The covenants will run with the land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It helps everyone, right?
Yeah.
And that's why we're having this discussion, is because we need to make sure
Mitigate the
that your
problem.
We
property
gotta
is
support both sides.
safe.
The other side of it, Blanche, and, I'm just playing the devil here, is if they put in RV hookups, and they just drag their trailer in seasonally. It's so totally circumvented our plan.
Right,
It just, they've got some soft mud and thrown in. We're talking about permanent structures always.
oh, absolutely. I think, isn't that
Well,
what
I
it has
think
to
that
be
they should
anyway?
have enough common, now I'm saying this kind of, cause I say shit. That you'd have enough common sense if you drug a trailer, and then you better have some water or stuff around there, so you don't burn up your houses, that you ought to. Absolutely. You have a campfire and you screw up and burn down, and you're saying that. You see where I'm?
Absolutely.
I mean, I agree totally with that.
Yeah, and their covenants for the lookout actually say that they're not supposed to have RVs,
Right,
except for when they're building the structure.
All right, well, we're gonna
Temporary
move
deal,
on.
yeah.
temporary.
Okay,
That's good.
thank you, guys, thank you, everybody.
Thank-
thanks, guys.
yeah. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Thank you. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling.
Have a good
Take care.
Thanksgiving.
Thanks.
Thanks, Brenda.
All right, well, we're way over, we're at the claim.
Can I talk to you about the jail? You wanna hear anything?
Well, I've been talking to them, I tried
Okay.
to, you,
Oh, I gave him the change order.
Wednesday? I don't watch anyway, on the jail, they dug up they pulled the floor up and were starting work and doing, there was a big leak and stuff in there. And he did get hold of Chuck 2 days, and I told him, call you. Anyway, that I told him, well, you gotta fix it.
Right.
Yeah, you were in emergency mode. I mean, you gotta have a jail that's,
And I did.
Good
try
shape.
calling him last time, and then he called Dick, or Dave called Chuck, and I told him, just do it. I mean, I know that you gotta have everybody, but.
Yeah,
you're into it.
Yeah, you were in emergency, I think emergency mode, that jail, he can't have that jail, he's gotta have it, the cells functioning and.
So what they find, there's it's leaking?
Yeah, there's water leaking and that, it's showing a bunch of rot and stuff in there, so they're gonna bring in Josh, oh, can't think of his last name, anyway, he's really good at that stuff and. We have to fix it, I mean, these buildings, are just, the maintenance never got. You know, we haven't done a lot of maintenance when you start getting into serious stuff like this, where we're fixing something that's gonna,
Yeah,
you know.
so it's taking out the cement floor and putting a new floor in,
And they got, yeah.
so, in that back cell area. And then the new pad cell will go on top of that, so it's all contingent on that. It's needed
I
fixed.
mean, we have to fix it.
I know,
Yeah.
we have to put it out for bid though.
No, cause I put it as he started, we just do a job or.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's something that's unforeseen. that-
Unforeseen, yeah, change order is the way. to go.
I can call him, talk to him, and I thought,
Oh, it was unforeseen, he didn't realize that was, no one knew.
well, this one here's a tough one. It don't seem like either side wanted to move. but,
there's no budging,
Yeah. that's what-
yeah,
What's that?
no budging, neither one wanted. They're like,
There's a conflict there, that somebody fits somebody.
Well, yeah, well,
See how they get those tanks in.
I mean, there is, it's true.
Nick say on the.
It's good.
Like these guys, they buy it, they get this stuff. They don't, I mean, there's so much to go with stuff anymore. though.
Well, they're blaming the realtors and there's lots of, he said, she said, but the facts didn't get down to them, it doesn't sound like.
Everything's changing. Way different than you, new regulation.
This one, what's this?
One,
Who's it doing?
What is that?
no documentation.
Gary, unplugged payment for electricity. Oh, that's that guy from, Rock Creek. Where we store our sand and we plug our equipment and stuff in.
So that's
Yeah,
banned.
we have sand and we have.
It's storing equipment, then it's not for electricity.
Yeah, it is, because we use the.
You plug in the equipment.
Plug in and keep it on.
So it wouldn't be $500 for the electricity.
It is. And plus the ground that we've written.
There's a storage.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
it should be the storage.
It's a storage. They're releasing its electricity. So, I mean, when you read it, it says electricity, you're going, how can we have an electrical $500?
Yeah, it's with the lease.
Yeah.
One thing I talked, the jail change order, I put that on the agenda next week too, just so you're discussing it as well. With the, Catholic Church on the chapel. Now's where the real work gets done out in the hall.
They're talking, maybe now. Right.
Yeah,
More out,
like,
bringing it in,
that GL change order, you might have like 5 minutes on the agenda next week, so.
Yes.
On mine,
I had it.
next thing I'll,
Oh. All right, so 11:45, task order amendment number 1, COVID immunization services.
So it's a task order from Montana DPHHS. It is for COVID immunization services. It looks like it is an amendment where we are getting an increase of funding for, I want to say it's a decent increase in money. Now they want services for there is an increase from originally we were getting $4,218, now we're getting $34,284, $25,704 is for COVID immunization services. $4,362 is for monkeypox services and will be dispersed upon full execution of this amendment.
Does this go right then to the public health nurse, or does this?
It goes, I believe, directly to our public health department.
So do we have to, work with partners to have that whole, the other ones, or is it all of them that here?
No, they have to get their own, they have condo on their own.
Oh, I entertain a motion on that.
I make motion that we accept task order amendment number 1 for COVID immunization services from Montana DPHHS.
Any public comment?
Elena.
Go ahead, Elena. On the motion.
I was waiting for public comment on the warrants. I didn't hear anything about that.
On the what?
The warrants,
We're not done with them. We overran. We're still going through them. What's up?
so you're doing the next thing on the agenda?
Yes.
Oh, thanks. Glad I asked.
Well, I'm glad you did too. Thank you.
Oops, sorry. I'm hitting too many buttons.
You're not doing nothing wrong. We're overran.
I was about to say, so am I, because it's very hard to follow. You got the agenda and people remotely are trying to follow it.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll wait. Thanks.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried 9.
You gonna have a headache today?
I already got one.
I used to go back with a headache all the time.
Drink more water.
It didn't do any good.
Dehydrated.
I brought my snow pants for this afternoon and I told Jackie we should pick up sleds on the way and make it a team building exercise for the dam.
Okay, well, we'll go to Granite County Board reappointment, Granite County Airport Board, Creek Fire Service. Discussion in the city.
Your first one is for Doug Benson for the Flint Creek Fire Service area and it is a reappointment.
And entertain a motion.
What's that?
Doug Benson for the fire department.
I'll move to appoint Doug Benson, reappoint.
Which one is it?
Doug Benson, Flint Creek Fire Service area. Figured I won't miss
Doug
it.
Benson. I second it.
Any public comment? If none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next one,
Second one is Dave Sanson for the Granite County Airport Board, which is a reappointment.
Who?
Dave Sanson for the Granite County Airport Board.
I make a motion that we accept Dave Sampson for the board,
Airport board.
for the Granite County Airport Board.
we do we're running behind.
I second it.
What do you mean you're running behind?
I just got told that. Any public comment on that? On favor?
No.
All right.
Aye.
Carry back. Thank you here for the 12 o'clock one?
Yeah.
Hey, where's my agenda?
Should I get a copy of this? A letter.
Yeah.
Maybe that's fine.
Is it all right if we,
Yeah.
hey, Blaine, do you think that I can hold this claim out until next week, being the change order claim?
Yeah, I think that works next week.
That's all right.
Have it on the agenda.
We'll hold this out because we have it on that change order next week.
Oh, okay.
So I'll just hold that. We approved it for, and now we're.
So we're gonna add to it then probably.
Oh, that is it, I think that's.
Oh, this is that.
And then we put it on for next week. So
I can send just my copy to the governor and Dave. and-
Fantastic.
Entertain a motion to accept the claims.
I make a motion that we accept the claims for October 2022.
Public comment.
So I have an email public comment from,
Elena does have a comment.
I have one email to me from her.
Oh.
I guess I'll
Go ahead.
read
Yeah, go ahead.
one email that, or not email, but yeah, email. And then she can, when will the monthly minutes, including the warrants, be posted online? I'm not sure.
Was it?
When will the monthly minutes, including the warrants, be posted online?
So I just posted actually the monthly minute, or not the monthly minutes, but the minutes that we normally do in here. I know the process for the minutes is once you guys approve them, I send them over to the clerk and recorder's office, and I know as they get to them, they put them in the fancy schmancy like monthly form, and that's when they input the warrants into them, how they do that process. And once they have those updated, they then send them to me in the monthly format to put in, and they get to them when they get to them, so I can follow up with them to see.
So this is something I guess she means put into our archivable minutes and claims, which the approved minutes are on the website. In the commissioner's agenda, I see approved minutes here that shows the last approved minutes was November 1st. If she's looking at getting them online in the archived minutes, I think they do that once a year and put the whole things in, but you can always come in and they're in the commissioner's proceedings book here until they get scanned and put into the system and ArcaSearch scans and puts them onto the archivable minutes. They're,
I wonder if the concern is it's, I guess, there's a couple weeks before they get posted on the website. Is
Yeah,
that the-
she
maybe the-
brings that up too,
Okay.
because sometimes Becky tries to do them from the year too, but I'm not certain of their exact process, but she does have her hand up.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Just to clarify, on the website, on the commissioner's minutes, if you scroll all the way down, you'll see March, and you'll see January, and you'll see February. I'm not talking about the archives, which I know goes in at the end of the year into the archives. This is supposed to be the monthly minutes with the warrants after you approve the month. And that's the way it's always been, and I don't know why it's not now.
And that is something, so like, that's the same thing. So I send once they're approved in here, I send the Word document over the clerk and recorder's office, and they create those monthly documents and implement the warrants. So I can follow up over there and see, because they send me those once they're done. So I'm sure with elections and things, they have.
Okay, thank you, because when Mike Cahill, that's how he did it, it was on there monthly.
Okay,
Thank you,
yep.
thank you.
so what are you talking about?
Here, I can.
We're at?
Like right here. So after, see, I do like as soon as I send her them every week. And then they create these. They're like the monthly ones go in the book. I don't create them, they're just right there.
So
she's
they're here.
wondering, she's wondering where the other months
No,
are, there's
no.
2 months.
No, I see a whole year.
Anyway, while they're looking.
Right here, what are these? What are these ones?
These
Oh,
ones are just the month, or the,
the claims you need
yeah,
aren't
the,
on here,
the
and
big
that actually needs to be done by the clerk and recorder's office, and so it needs to be brought to their attention that the last time the claims were in is March. They need to get those updated.
I'll follow up with them.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so that's what you were talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
All in favor on the claims?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried and passed. Okay, it's 12 o'clock, well, a little after, and the Conda Catholic Church community request to get power supply at Georgetown Lake, Mass site. What's your name?
Mike Kovacic.
Huh?
Mike Kovacic,
Okay.
Wasich.
This is Commissioner Scott Adler, Commissioner Blanford, Commissioner Chuck Hinkle.
How you doing?
Please meet you. Oh.
How you doing? Yeah, I worked for Deer Lodge County for 30 years, so. These commissioner meetings, sometimes they get a little lively.
Okay, so you're asking for power or wanting to put power in?
Right, I talked to Mr. Alt. And you have a pole. It's 110 feet away from where the altar is there, the little chapel. And the reason why we're doing that is for the loudspeaker system, we use the jumper batteries to power up the system. We were just wondering if we get 110 off of that pole that's kind of right there in the middle of that
Is
park.
there a meter on that already?
There is. It's set to go, and Mr. Alt told me that they were gonna use that to plug in their grader. That was the idea of it, to keep it warm and ready to go. So,
What would you just like, this once a week, right?
yeah, well, once a week. Yeah, Sunday at,
If I vote against this, is the big guy gonna strike me down?
The one question I have is, I think the current lease is non-exclusive because we have some weddings and stuff up there. Could then other people use it, or would it just basically be just for Sunday,
Yeah, those are pretty rare, you know,
Yeah.
usually like a Saturday or something,
yeah.
you know, I mean, they would be. Maybe one or two,
Correct,
maybe,
yeah,
and it's probably for 4 months is what it is, it goes. You know, and then also, you know, we'd have a certainly up to code licensed electrician. Install it. Make it secure. You know, so that.
I guess as long as they're covering it all, I don't have a problem with it. I mean,
Well, how about, did you, you know, pay something a month for it, or? I mean, it'd almost be. It costs $12 a month to keep a meter. Montana Power charges that.
the county already pays that, right, cause you're paying, using your, did she plug it?
We'll
through?
watch our power bill. No.
don't keep an eye, just pray for us that we.
Okay. We can do that, yeah, we can, yeah, that.
My person, I don't have a problem. What little bit is gonna be used. What do you think? Wayne?
It's nominal, guess you could, I would encourage sending a letter approving the project and say if. Yeah, if the bill gets, you know, potential, you guys could forward it on or something like that, but I don't know, I think it's pretty
All right,
nominal.
you,
Yeah, that'd be fine, sure.
I'd entertain a motion then.
I'll move to send a letter.
Oh, sure, you wanna be for this. Yeah.
I'll second it.
And this wouldn't be done until. Like May now.
Right.
You know, until, and thank you very much, you know, for. We did, it kind of improved the parking lot there a little bit. More for handicapped people than anything.
Okay, so all in favor, or is there any public comment on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Done deal.
Well, thank you
We'll
very
get-
much.
get you a letter and then-
We'll say some perks for you guys.
What address should that letter be sent to, this, you know?
Is it the one on the letter?
Yeah.
They have it right here.
17 West Pennsylvania.
Is that it?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Perfect, I will send
That
it
works.
there. Fantastic, thank you.
Thanks, yeah,
Hey, thank you very much, guys. You guys
yeah,
take it easy.
take care.
I want to make a comment on Elena's comment. Mike Cable did not put the claims on the commissioner's minutes. It was the clerk recorder's office that added them, so it wasn't Billy's responsibility to do that.
Thank you. Okay,
It's what has to happen is bring it to the clerk recorder's attention and say they need to update. They need quite a few months stuff.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Like the candy, I put Werther's in there.
For a few minutes, we can go to the Mako. Ever done. Intergovernmental partnership with federal lands management agencies.
So I emailed Eric Bryson about it, and he emailed me back and said, what are you talking about? Well, that letter is the one that came from him, he signed the letter. So,
Is it a scam?
no, I don't think it's a scam, but I think they're sending stuff out that they don't, I mean, they're not thinking through, obviously, if he's asking me what it's about, I mean, yeah, I got an email yesterday from him saying, what are you talking about?
I'm 100% against it.
Yeah,
Yeah, he signed it.
yeah, Mike, you want me, get the email out?
Did he read it? And say he didn't know what it was?
Do they get stamped in name, or is that just something on a leather thing that they did
Maybe.
pre-do it?
I bet they have an electronic one.
Let's see.
Like, me, don't you, plan? Don't, you know, like it's, just the letters already signed and you
Well, I
His
don't
comment
think,
back was, I'm not sure what intergovernmental partnership with Federal Lands Management Agency payment you're referring to, Eric. I mean, you sent us a letter. I mean,
well, and this is NACO. NACO's one that's saying that they want this to happen.
yeah, but he signed
Yeah.
Eric
he did.
signed the letter.
Yeah, he's acting like he don't know nothing about it.
I wonder why other counties haven't questioned it. Well, in other words, no.
Are they? Yeah, I don't think it's a scam, but I don't know that he actually signed that letter. I mean,
Counties must share lessons learned to educate government officials and the public about the critical county contribution to sustainable resource management.
That's gonna accomplish nothing.
my advice would be to deny it. If they don't even know what's going on. Yeah.
In motion.
Therefore, the National Association of Counties and the Western Interstate Region were both moved at the annual conference to do this.
I'll make a motion to deny Mako intergovernmental partnership with federal land management agencies for this county.
I'll second it.
Any public comment? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, pretty fishy, huh?
That's crazy. And $20,000.
Yeah. Well, you'd wonder why, Beaverhead County would not respond and say, I'm not giving you 57,140.
Well, I bet they do. I think so.
Well, I hope none of them sees it. Is this Dawn Rice coming in? please?
She's gonna get on via Zoom.
Is she from here or is this
She came in at one point. She's part of Butte Cares, and did Butte Cares change its name to Southwest Prevention?
support for this money? Is that something for the county or?
It's for CTC. They want to make a coalition. They do like community that cares. Is that what it's called? I pulled
Yes,
off some stuff you sent me for you
I
guys.
looked at it, I was
It is, yeah, grant funding, community that cares, it add a, basically, I think they'd be able to add Anaconda Deer Lodge County, potentially be able to add or who do we partnership with?
So she's separate.
Oh,
So
she's
this is
separate.
what I found. So
Okay,
when I went on a look for like what prevention did. She is part of like Butte Cares, who I think has changed into Southwest or Southwest Montana Prevention. I might be wrong there though. But so they are supposed to do prevention work in the county schools. They have a contract through the state, is what I am under the impression of. And so for a long time, they didn't have anybody hired to work in Granite County. But then they hired her, and she came in here one day and gave you guys all her business card really quickly. And then
but
she.
tobacco
She's
prevention.
not tobacco
She's not
prevention, that's
tobacco.
Amanda
All right, that's
Burr.
right, okay, I was confused.
And but she remembers she was in here really quick and introduced
She
herself.
just showed up and yeah, said she's come. yeah,
For
she was
prevention.
on agenda.
Yeah, and so now apparently they're trying to get grant funding to have another person, because I want to say she covers us in Deer Lodge,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
And but it's my impression that she's supposed to be working in our schools to do prevention programming.
Why would?
But that's the extent of my knowledge. And that this CTC is to create a coalition that is supposed to aid our prevention programs.
That's, yeah.
It's my,
Commission.
it's my general understanding, but I.
She
might
said
get it
she'd be
skewed.
on though,
Yeah, she's gonna be on at 12:30, so
Okay. Oh,
she'll be
okay.
able to tell us more. But I think she works a lot with Amanda Borer, or Bo,
Or-
Borer.
Go opt out 12:30.
Mhm.
Okay, it's 12. Couple minutes early, Don Rise with a request for letter of support for CTC, Communities That Care, collision grant. We're waiting for her to come on.
Oh, there she is.
She's on.
She's getting on it, connecting. And- Let me. Unmute. All right, she's on.
Hi,
Hello,
how are you guys?
good, you?
Pretty good. So I was, sorry.
Go ahead, what's this about? Would you explain it so we know what's going on?
Yeah, so the state okayed me to try to get CTC, Communities That Care, implemented in Granite County. I was just wondering if I could have your guys' support on it. It's a program that helps the social development of the youth. It's been proven effective. Actually, I sent Billy a link with a little brochure about it. I've been busy, so I didn't do that until this morning. But up to 37% of youth are less likely to have health and behavior problems, and it just helps to promote the pro-social factors and teach them skills to succeed.
How much is this grant?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
How much is the grant? Or what are you looking to get?
I'm just looking to get a letter of recommendation from you guys. I don't believe it would cost you anything.
How much grant funding is available? This is Blaine.
Hi, Blaine. I'm not even sure. I'm actually not in the role. They have to actually hire somebody to do that, and I haven't been trained or anything yet. I just have to have community support before they'll implement it.
And so that person would go into the schools and work with the kids in the schools?
The whole community. It would be
Oh.
community-wide, yeah.
And who's the employer, would be the employer of that person?
Butte Cares.
Butte Cares?
Yeah.
Could you tell the commission explain that to the commission, Butte Cares?
So Butte Cares is the nonprofit that I currently work for. We just work to help reduce youth substance use, help their pro-social development, social emotional development, just try to have a healthy, happy community. And the earlier you start that, and then, more successful the kids will be.
Don't we have people like that that come to the thing in Drummond though that does that already?
Well, that's there's, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different people. I am currently the prevention specialist for Granite County. The CTC has a coalition. We'll do coalition work with the community.
And you're not sure if this is gonna cost the county some money in that? I guess it's, not quite sure what all you're trying to get here and.
Where's the grant come from?
It's a federal grant, so I don't think it's not gonna cost the county anything.
Oh,
It's probably
this,
that new bill on the, they passed, it's, secure schools, probably coming from that, I
Oh, the
think.
SRS money.
Could
No,
be, I just know, my boss told me it's part of the expansion, so.
and how many times a week are you here then? Do you have to set up somewhere to do this stuff if you're, I guess I don't understand it.
To be honest, I'm not really sure just because I'm not in that role. The role hasn't been created yet. We need support to have that created. It would be a full-time position, 5 days a week over in Granite County. Right now I'm only part-time over there. And I have not been trained in CTC. But whoever, if it's not me, whoever will get that will be trained and, be over there 5 days a week, 40 hours.
so you're not committing to have them like, give them space or anything like that.
That's what
Yeah, you're not committing to do that.
So
No.
Dawn, what you're requesting then is a letter of support for the CTC to apply for this grant. And you need letters of support from the communities in the surrounding area to be able, hopefully, that the grant will be approved. And
Just to implement it, yeah.
Okay, the CTC is the one that would actually apply for the grant. And what you're requesting is just a letter of support from Granite County that we are in agreement that the Communities That Care Coalition for Granite County, and we support it.
Yeah.
And
I'd like to see a job description of this person.
well, they're just applying for the
Full-time,
grant,
yeah, I know.
probably after the grant back.
Why would I support something if I don't know what that person's doing?
It's just a program that we would wanted to see if the county would support the program being ran over there. I don't believe it would cost the county anything. It's a Butte Cares position. We just need support from the community to implement the program.
I don't know what they're doing.
This is not even a sure deal. It's just that you just want a letter of support to see if you can actually get it.
Yes,
So are you requesting from the schools too for a letter of support?
I have a letter of support from the school district already, yes.
Okay, so I make a motion that we give a letter of support for the CTC grant.
I'll second it. And then you'll bring something back, if this comes through, then you'll actually bring something to us so we know what really, is who's doing what, what's doing what.
Yes.
Cause right now, you kind of got me at a loss, I'm not quite sure what it is.
To be honest, since I've only looked into it, just a little bit because I am not trained to do CTC and that's not my current role. They just asked if I would see if the community would be supportive of implementing it over there. And it actually has very good successes in other counties that it's in. So I did send over to Billy a link that you can look at the brochure. I sent the link to the Communities That Care website. And on there is also a toolkit for community leaders. If you want, it's 67 pages long, but I mean, anybody can go through and check that information out to see, any information. That's the only information I have as well, because I have not been trained in it.
So one more question on letters of support. You say that you've got a letter of support from the schools. How about like the Chamber of Commerce and things like that? Do you try to go through the actual public to get letters of support besides the commission?
Yes, so I was told that I needed 2 letters of support and I have 3 already. I was just hoping to have you guys on board as well.
So you got like Phillipsburg Hall and Drummond schools, right?
Yeah, I got the chamber, I got the school. And some others.
All the schools.
You're wondering about Drummond
And
schools?
all, don't they?
I haven't heard back from Drummond yet.
Or all?
But you've requested one from them.
Yes.
Okay. All righty, any other public comment on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. One opposed. Well, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
guys very much.
You can bring us something back, cause you got me kind of at a loss. I'm not quite sure I should have voted for that. I'm wondering.
I
what
will
it is.
bring you everything I can.
Helping the kids and stuff, but we need to know really what we're applying for.
I understand.
Alright.
All right, thank you.
Not applying for it. We're actually not. So it's fine, Franny.
But I'd like to know what that's really about.
We're just saying, go for it, so you can see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you guys done with your morning session?
Can I get the check?
I have a draft letter of support.
I'll give this to you. We lost our chairman for a second.
Where'd you go?
I know. Waiting for to adjourn the meeting.
Well, we're gonna adjourn.
Hmm.
We're
Yeah,
gonna
the
adjourn.
two
Okay.
commissioners, you guys can,
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Dawn.
Okay, we're
um,
there.
They need to make a note about the afternoon session at the dam or,
yeah, you might wanna put on, state where you're gonna meet and stuff.
okay.
So what?
There's your meeting at the dam at 2 o'clock
2 o'clock.
and it won't be on Zoom, so
I won't be on Zoom.
it'll be
Alright.
cold.
All right,
It's not that cold.
What are you doing at 1:30?
We're gonna hit the button,
Test the alarm.
test the alarm
Hit what time?
All right, adjourned.
down at the.
Huh?
In the campground.